Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim. All kids out.
Lego Lord of the Rings Balrog raised eyebrows for what some fans say is an unfortunate pose. I see it. I see it. Oh, I see it. It's taking a piss on Gandalf.
You shall not!
Before you go, one question.
Yes?
Where in the galaxy is Sanusi?
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
There we go. All better now. Man, titties are the greatest things on earth.
No matter how I'm feeling, whatever way, shape, or form, whether I feel like doing the show or not, as soon as I put on that intro and I just see Salma in that bikini with her big old boobs, I feel better. I just feel better. And I think, my God, I'd love to have sex with her. That's every time. That's just what goes through my mind. Because I am a heterosexual man who loves beautiful women. Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Dive, the Double D's, where you, the audience, are in charge. You make this shit move forward, and you make me watch things I don't want to. Dragon Ball Evolution. My God. The hate I have for that movie, for the pure disrespect it showed to the Dragon Ball franchise. I gotta wonder, did Toriyama Sensei have any input on that movie at all? Or did somebody just take the rights and go, here, go? And nobody paid attention. We're going to talk about that. That is part of today's show. I will be doing what I'm going to be calling now the Chat Made Me Watch This reviews. That's what it's a new playlist that I'm going to be creating for the channel. Every time you guys make me do one of these, starting with this week's stuff, it's going to be the Chat Made Me Watch This reviews. That's what it's going to be. And when it's for movies like this, which are old and out there, and I don't really take that seriously, but you guys asked me to review them, so I'll give them the live on-stream review as I promised. So we'll get to that a little bit later. How much time do I have today, Kel? Except for having to do laundry, I'm fine. I ate way too much leftover pizza, so I don't know when I'm going to be hungry again. I'm kind of deciding what I'm going to do for dinner now. Because of the way my day went yesterday, I just picked up a pizza from Costco, and it was fine last night, but then there was more of it left over this morning than there normally would be, and I just ate way too much of that for lunch. I'm like up to here right now. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that last piece. I should not have. So I don't know if I'm going to do anything complicated for dinner, something maybe very light at this point. So with the exception of laundry, I don't got much else to do today. Until tonight, it is Warhammer Wednesdays. Which means aside from this show where we get some good injection of Warhammer lore, I will be playing Space Marine 2 with Alf tonight, probably around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, I don't have much else. I don't have much else planned. So throw at me whatever length lore video you have in store. Go for it. I'm game. Other than that, I think I have a couple of things to say. I'm trying to formulate a thought I have around something read a little bit ago. We'll go over the news and we'll see what's going on. There is lots of stuff going on. Some things I want to comment on, some things I don't, as usual, care about at all. But that's kind of how we do the pop culture roundup news on this show. For those who may be coming in fresh. We have some new people coming in. I'm some subscribers. It's about taking the broad scope and whatever you guys are interested in, we talk about. That's how it goes. That's how this show runs. It's you. It's your show. We talk about what you want me to talk about. Occasionally from my 170, I get that. So while we warm up, everybody comes in. I want to talk about the Star Trek Academy reaction we did the other day. So yesterday I clipped it out and I put it up on the channel. Kind of did nothing, but today it's starting to take off a little bit. It's starting to get some traction. People are watching it. And real Star Trek fans are, of course, angry. Same angry we are as real Star Trek fans at what we saw there. But there are still people who are like, oh my God, what's your problem? Like, here is the lowest moronic response you can give to something that says literally reaction video. Trailer reaction. Guy goes in my comments, this guy's like stopping every minute to talk about the minutia. It's a reaction video. What the hell do you expect? I'm going to break it down. And as an actual fan of Star Trek, I'm going to be annoyed at everything I see Kurtzman Trek related. So don't give me that, oh, what are you doing? Stopping every little point to reaction. What are you so brain dead from watching reaction tube of people who just sit there and watch it and go, okay. Is that the level of what you think a reaction video is? Because when you're really reacting to something, you stop it, you break it down, and you talk about it. That's how a reaction video works. I am so tired of brain dead stans who think they're smart and think they're getting on up on me. Oh, I'm going to get you on that one. No. Stop. Just walk away. Your small brain cannot compete in my arena. And then, of course, I'm going online a little bit. I'm trolling around on my feed, and I'm seeing people who are actually going, I love this. There's this one channel. I'll bring it up to you right here. Actually, there's a couple. Let me bring up the one that I reacted to recently. Trek Central. Here it is. Right here. Let me just bring this one up to you right here. This guy has come. I quote tweeted him once, and this guy is now all over my goddamn feed. This is what a shill Star Trek fan looks like. We haven't had much interaction with the Star Trek shillosphere. Mostly it's Disney, Star Wars, or MCU, or now DCU. But now here's one of these guys, and this is a guy when let me make sure it's the right one here. Yes. Is this the right one, or is yeah, it is the right one. Yes, the right one. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm going to rant on the right person here. This genius right here. I miss serious Star Trek universe. We can have both. The fucking press. Trek always has random episodes with goofy, funny moments in addition to seriousness. That's what it says the rest of there. And I immediately saw this and went, oh my God. As I say here, don't tell me you didn't actually watch the episode without telling me. Or tell me you didn't actually watch the episode without telling me. Because this is not a goofy moment. This is Captain Picard losing his mind from time dilation exposure in the middle of the Enterprise D being in a slow motion warp core breach and meltdown, and Data having to pull him out of there immediately. There's nothing goofy or silly about this moment. It is serious. This is retarded. So I'm getting this dude all over my feed now, and here it is right here. Trek Central. Let me check on it. Trek Central, your destination for everything Star Trek news, lore, and more. Catch our YouTube videos and read our web covers. Now, I bet he has a larger channel than me, so we're not going to have that kind of meltdown again today. Point is, though, he says in a statement, I love all things Star Trek. Doesn't matter this, that. He's kind of moron that says happy birthday to every single person that ever had a role in Star Trek. Same as fucking Star Wars Holocron. And there is no loving Kurtzman Trek. if you at all like Kurtzman Trek, I will beam you into space. I will beam you into space and let you float away. Kurtzman Trek is an abomination. It has destroyed the franchise. So there are channels, accounts like this out there. These people are stupid, but they probably have a following because morons flock to morons. And they'll all be lemmings and jump off the same fucking cliff to destroy the franchise they claim to love. So I'm glad that my trailer reaction is getting some. It's getting some traction now. Some real Star Trek fans are seeing how angry actual Star Trek fans are. But this is it's ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. All right, you got it. All right. Kel for City for $60. Time for 3 Inquisition videos. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We are going deep into the lore today, it looks like. Oh my goody, gosh. Wow. Okay. All right. I will leave this open here and we'll get those links ready one at a time as we go. So 1, 2, it's a 3-parter. Okay. All right. So there's our Warhammer Wednesday stuff. Outstanding. Thank you, Kel. We'll have a good time after my brain is melted down because, as I said, we got Dragon Ball Evolution, and I'm sure we'll get a reaction or two out of me for some of the stuff in the news. Other than that, I hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. It is Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. I'm tired. I'm physically tired. Yesterday was an exhausting day, physically and emotionally on some stupid shit. And now I sort of caught up on sleep last night. And I've just been kind of going through my daily motions today. Like I said, I ate too much pizza. That was a mistake. I feel fatter than I already am. You know, I really want to get into a more comfortable routine without anything blowing up my regularity right now, so I can actually start to get back to a workout regimen. Because I have got to lose. I got to lose some weight. I got to. Little too heavy. Not comfortable. I'm not comfortable at all. I'll get there, though. And you guys help it by providing stability to the channel, by showing up, by watching videos, making sure the channel keeps growing. Hit that like button. Hit the like button. It's not hard. You go boop, and it's done. And it says, hey, algorithm, promote this guy. Get him out there. Help him make a stable channel so he can move away from this stupid place he lives in to a more sane place where better things can happen and he can have a life. All right. For those coming in, here are the rules of the show. $5 to order an Adam rant on anything. $10 to ask me questions to discuss a pop culture topic or something funny or silly. It's like, Adam, how do you feel about this? Or have you seen this? And that's how it works. You drop that $10 and we'll talk about it. We'll have a discussion, you and I. It's a free flow exchange of ideas. $10 to also rent me to play 30 minutes of a video game. I have to have it, though. I can't buy it. It kind of defeats the purpose. So, yeah, we've been doing that. The Outlast 2 stream is still up. I'm sure the next ones will be just as horrible. Then $15 to have me instant hot take react to an article that I've shown you on the day or one you may have found that you want me to give my thoughts on. That's how it works. $20 to make me watch videos I don't want. And $30 to have me do a live on-stream review of an episode of television or movie that you guys want. Today's got one of those. It will be Dragon Ball Evolution, courtesy of Kratos El Grados. And that's it. That's what we got right now. That's how it works. So for coming on in, I appreciate your support when we do this. All right, so why don't we get to the news? Why don't we get to the news and get that over with and move on to the pain. All right, so let's get the news up on the screen and let's go through it. And I reserve the right to pick an article that maybe I want to do if you guys don't want to do it. All right, how Destination X contestants, I don't care about your goddamn reality television. Devon Franklin's one-man performance Be True to debut on Audible. Don't care. Neil McDonough says Hollywood turned on me after I wouldn't kiss another woman on screen. I couldn't get a job and I lost everything. Neil McDonough is a great actor. He can do evil. He can do good guy. He can do both types of characters. He is great, and he got shit apparently because he only wants to ever kiss his wife. Hey, that is a man's behavior right there. If that's how he wants to be faithful to his wife, if he believes that kissing another woman on screen means he's being unfaithful to his wife, then that's cool. I respect that. I totally respect that. I do. So I would like to see Neil McDonough continue to get good work. I enjoy Neil McDonough. He was in Star Trek. R.I.P. Lieutenant Hawk. He got assimilated. MGM crime drama The Westies adds 4 series regulars. Never heard of it. No, therefore I don't care. Amazon invests in Netflix of AI startup Fable, which launches showrunner. That's a lot of words that don't quite connect together. Netflix of AI startup Fable. Okay, wait, now I understand what that says. They call themselves the Netflix of AI Fable. AI is a tool. I'm not as afraid of it as others are. And if you're good with the tool, you can get some work. I said that a year ago when we read articles on a different stream that all the major core entertainment corpos were having job listings for AI technicians. I said at that time, if you have the means, go learn to use it as a tool. You will get one of these high-paying jobs. And here it is a year later, and these jobs are manifesting. Get the knowledge, make some money, get work. Use it as a tool that it is. Positions a gross-out crypto comedy acquired by Dark Star Pictures ahead of Fantasia Festival premiere. I don't care about music. CBS News Digital's WGA East Unions. Oh, unions could go cry me up a fucking river. Pam Anderson and sons Brandon and Yeager attend Naked Gun premiere, where she is now apparently an item with Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson. What did I say? Liam Neeson. Listen, I'm going to say this. I am happy for Liam Neeson that he has found someone to spend his quality time with again. After the death of his wife, where she had that skiing accident and hit her head and died of a brain hemorrhage. He basically shut himself off from the world and just made a bunch of shitty movies just to occupy his time. That's how I always looked at it. And the fact that if he and Pam Anderson have fallen in love after making Naked Gun, good for them. Good for Pam getting away, who is aging naturally. There's nothing wrong with that. She still looks pretty good. And good for Liam for, finding somebody to able to share romantic feelings with again, because his heart was broken when his wife died. Heart was broken. That was a thing back then. So I'm happy. Good for them. And listen, here's where my well wishes turn dirty. We've all seen the movies. We know Pam knows what she's doing. We know Pam knows what she's doing. So okay. You have your fun, my friend. You enjoy it. There, you see, I made it wholesome, but then I made it dirty. I'm on brand. Horror streamer Shudder built a decade of growth by prioritizing bold filmmakers over trends. I don't care about horror movie. That's a Sam question. I don't care about some guy's documentary. Harrison Ford goes deep on Star Wars, his first Emmy nomination for Shrinking and the Future of America. Get rich, get richer, poor get poor. That ain't right. Oh, shut up, Mr. I'm super rich. And he says in that also, I'm going to keep acting forever. All I want is curmudgeon Harrison Ford. That's all I want. I want the curmudgeon who's high and hates everything. That's what I want. I don't want to hear him get deep. I don't. But I don't want to. He signed on to ruin Indiana Jones some more. So just shut up. I don't care. I don't know what that is. Box office, Fantastic Four remains number 1 as Naked Gun targets its early launch. Yeah, okay, here's the thing. Fantastic Four, I'm hearing rumors are that, and we're going to see it, I think, in another article here. I think I saw it several places. Yeah, the hold ain't looking good. The hold is not looking good. It seems my original prediction of it coming in third will actually hold. It will not have any sort of, it'll not make it a competition to try and slip past Superman for number 2. It ain't gonna have it. Jessica Chastain enrolls in Harvard Kennedy School to get a master's degree in public administration. Good luck, honey. I got my master's in public administration. What the fuck do you need one? Mine is a worthless piece of paper degree. I got highest grades. I was on the dean's list when I was doing that shit. I was looking great, and it meant shit. My master's in public administration is worthless. Worthless. And get one from Harvard, go fuck yourself. Jesus. Worthless fucking degree. What are you going to fucking do with it? Jonas Brothers. Oh, they can go get fucked. Cannes winners don't care about some fucking cancer. Jamie Lee Curtis says plastic surgery is like the genocide of women who've disfigured themselves. But she doesn't judge her Hollywood peers. I would never say a word. You shut up. You who runs out there and protects the trannies and all the disfiguration that goes on. The Frankenstein work that they do to those poor deranged individuals. You can shut the fuck right up. Jamie Lee Curtis, shut the fuck right up. Hermaphrodite, you fucking Hermie. We know you were a Hermie, you dumb cow. Sylvia Young, theater school founder, is dead. Whatever. Don't care. Don't know her. I'm gonna be cold and glib. I don't care. Cat Video founder. Oh, Cat Videos, yeah. Nick Gunn review. Liam Neeson skewers himself in an engaging goofball grab bag of a reboot that rarely shocks you into laughter. It doesn't have to shock you into laughter, but it can still be fun, and I hope it is fun. I hope it's fun. I've been saying this all week whenever this story comes up. I hope that the Naked Gun reboot or revival, because it's the same universe. He's Frank Drebin Jr. He's still I believe it's the follow up to that just forgot his name. So I wanted to say Liam Neeson, but forgot the actor's name. Just lost my mind. And it's the original story. It's the original universe. So I hope it's fun. Hollywood returns to normal. It's path back to normalcy. Let's keep going. Bradley Cooper, is this thing on? DB's first look. Don't care. Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen to receive the TV Academy Bob Hope Humanitarian Award. Leslie Nielsen. That was it. Leslie Nielsen. I knew it was an L. And I said it before you came up there, Kel. I said it before your chat came up. I remembered on my own. Not completely brain dead. There you go. All right, fine for them. The Osbournes are sharing their grief during Ozzy's funeral. They're very emotional. R.I.P. Ozzy. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child celebrates 9 years at London Palace Theatre. Really? Ugh. International Oscars race. Don't care. Tom Edgerton says, I don't think I'm a good choice for James Bond. It kind of consumes your life and be wasted on me. Yeah. I don't see it either. Don't care there. 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 That's enough. Let's move on. Hollywood Reporter. Let's reset it. Knives Out celebrities reveal plastic surgery secrets, but one procedure is still taboo. Yeah. You've all had plastic surgery. I'm going to say this. You know what? I don't care if you make your titties bigger, because frankly, that's a win for everybody when you make your titties bigger. But stop making your faces look like horror shows. Just stop. Just don't. Just stop. It's not you're not doing anything. Why is this TV Summer of Tumbleweeds? Because creative bankruptcy, that's why. And all your fucking shows take 2 years to fucking make. That's why there's nothing on. Because here's the news flash. Why is it tumbleweeds? When terrestrial TV and networks were still a thing, we've talked about this. For the past 15, 20 years, there was such a thing as the summer season where the cable networks would roll out their summer shows. Okay? So there was a nice in-between where you had something to watch before you got back to regular network television programming. But with terrestrial network programming dead, with all these shows horrible, all of them having sold out, become agenda-driven for the past 5 years, nobody's watching them, and a lot of them get canceled, and they exist in limbo. Nobody knows they exist anymore. And then, because terrestrial television is dying, they don't make those summer shows anymore. And now, because everything goes to streaming, and you have a bunch of people working on all these streaming services, these streaming networks, we'll call them now, who don't know how to make television, who take 2 years to make 8 to 10 fucking episodes. No wonder there's nothing to watch, because they don't know how to make television anymore. And when they do make it, it's a 50-50. It's going to be good or shit. That's the reason there's nothing to watch. So stop trying to tell me, oh, what's going on? No, that's what's going on. It should not take this long to make television. It shouldn't. And waiting until certain times of the year, bullshit. In this era of streaming, if you make it, get it out there. Just get it out. Your audience is always going to freaking be there. This is not the era of, oh, we have to wait till the fall premiere season. No, we are beyond that. Terrestrial, because y'all killed it, don't matter anymore. You killed it and they killed themselves. Plain and simple. TV should not take this long. That's why there's nothing to watch. Idiots. Let's move on. I'm not even going to state your time there. Jeez. That's just dumb. That is just dumb. God. DreamWorks includes anti-AI training clause in end credit to The Bad Guys 2. I don't give a fuck about your furry movies. I don't. Grounded 2 stomps on the original Steam player count as dev makes big promises with early access roadmap. I didn't play the first one. I'm not going to play the second one. I'm not interested in that game. I don't care if it's co-op. I'm not interested. Happy Gilmore 2 is Netflix's biggest watched film of all time. And K-pop Demon Hunters is also popular. So, Games Workshop and Warhammer Hobby are in great shape, but the company has 2 problems right now. Trump's tariffs and the cute bat. Oh, shut up. Shut up. No. They are, not in great shape. Not in great shape. Games Workshop is ban-hammering people at tournaments for not using proper miniatures, for not using current miniatures. They are terrible. They are a terrible company. And you're to lie and say that Trump's tariffs are going to make your plastic crack more expensive, go fuck yourself. You priced that shit into oblivion all on your own. Don't try and hide behind that shit. Bullshit. And what this cute back thing? Fuck off on that. Don't care. Yeah, I mean, all right. People love the original movie. They really do. We talked about this a little bit on the weekend. I'm okay with it. It's not one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies, but it's fine. But I think people are liking Happy Gilmore 2 because it's dumb fun, and it's harmless dumb fun, from what I'm hearing. Harmless dumb fun, which is what we need more of, honestly. Not take everything so seriously. Nintendo Direct partner showcase broadcast announced for this week. Oh, something I'm not going to watch because I don't care about Nintendo. Activision makes big changes to solo play in Warzone as it outlines what's coming to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Warzone Season 5. Sure. Keep propping up your games that are dying every year. Pop, up, down, massive peaks and valleys. You no longer have to launch Call of Duty HQ to play Modern Warfare 2 and 3. Whatever. Amazon's Warhammer 40K animation is a taster ahead of Henry Cavill's Cinematic Universe. Games Workshop says, "Oh, it's Warhammer Wednesday. We're gonna read this one because it is Warhammer Wednesday. That is an automatic read. It is a Warhammer Wednesday. Let's get an update on what Cavill's doing. Hell yes. We'll talk about that. Pokemon suddenly removes trading card design embroiled in plagiarism controversy amidst production issue and launches wider investigation. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Nintendo U-turns on Mario Kart World change. Yeah, apparently there was a big update. Sure. I don't play it. Not going to play it. From software delays, Elden Ring Night Rain patch 1.02 due to tsunami warning in Japan as massive earthquake of Russia triggers evacuation across Pacific. Well, I hope that that was 9 hours ago, so I don't know if anything's happened yet. I've been hearing about that all morning. I hope that nothing comes of it because tsunamis are dangerous. And this is from yesterday. Okay, so let's go to Park Place. This should refresh on here. The absurd uproar over Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle jeans campaign when a simple pun ignites outrage. I haven't covered that at all because that's not something I need to weigh into. Sydney Sweeney is a beautiful woman with an outrageously perfect body. And American Eagle were geniuses with the campaign. And anybody that is pushing back on it is a frigid, erectile, dysfunctioned moron who will never find love in their life, and let alone having a man or a woman touch them. That's simple. Sadie Sweetie's beautiful. People will buy beautiful. Universal's Halloween Horror Nights 34 unleashes the terror of Five Nights at Freddy's in a spine-chilling haunted house. I'm not into that stuff. Pedro Pascal, Internet Daddy. Pedro Pascal appears to high-five Fantastic Four co-star over idea of throwing President Trump into space. Yes, the guy who plays the Thing said, if I had the Thing's powers, I would throw certain fascists into space. They can't help themselves, can they? They just cannot help themselves. Not at all. Your struggling movie is going to struggle even more now. Did Rachel Zegler snub understudy who earned 5-minute standing ovation for replacing Arvita? Yeah, that was a story a few days ago. Apparently, halfway through her performances for the day, Unibrow there had to leave for medical reasons, whatever that was. And her understudy came on stage, and apparently everybody loved her more than the diva. So, you bitch. Everybody hates you. Deservedly so. Disney drops annual Passover Starlight Reservation rule and lifts blocking for cast members at Magic Kingdom. I don't even understand what that means. I don't do theme park. Bill Maher slams Whoopi Goldberg in progressive virtue signaling, admits he was wrong about Trump tariffs. I'll say one thing about Bill Maher. He's never funny, and he is a massive liberal retard, but he has always understood that at some point you wave the white flag and admit you're wrong. I'll give him that much. I will give him that. He's been a bomb thrower. He's a gaslighter, but when reality smacks him in the face, he does wave the white flag. Also, he is smart enough to know that, as I did the report on this years ago, that the eventual cancel culture guns would turn on him. So he going down a middle road of making sure that he is at least speaking some intelligent thoughts keeps him safe. Marvel's Fantastic Four first step stumbles with disappointing first Monday box office, lower than Superman, Quantumania, and Captain Black Falcon. Yep. Predictions are it's going to have a drop off of about 60 to 65%. That's what I'm hearing. That could be bad. Could be bad. Sweet Baby Inc. former employee advocates for stealing ideas from books in GDC presentation. Plagiarism. When in doubt, steal other people's ideas without acknowledging they were an inspiration. Listen, at this point, if you're a creator, just about everything in a version has been done. You're going to be not copying, but you're going to be using the same ideas and tropes that everybody's used. The key is, can you do it in a new and interesting way that is entertaining? That is what I try to do. So there you go. And that's from yesterday. Okay. There are the articles, my friends. There are the articles. Have a thought on what you might want to do. But for now, while you think about that, it's time for pain. It's time for pain. It's time for pain because that means it is time. It is time for Chat Made Me Watch It reviews. That's what we're calling it. Chat Made Me Watch It reviews. So part of this week's punishments is that I had to watch 3 movies. Yesterday we did The Room, which that was something to behold. And today it's Dragon Ball Evolution. Dragon Ball Evolution. Oh my God. Let's be honest here. This is Dragon Ball in name only. Here's how I describe this movie. Dragon Ball Evolution says a lot of the names and places and terminology you know from Dragon Ball, but doesn't actually use them properly. There's no actual comprehension. There is nothing Dragon Ball in this movie. Not even the Dragon Balls are correct. The Dragon Balls aren't even right. They don't behave properly. They don't do anything right. None of this works. It's an abomination on wheels. I will say one good thing about this. All the chicks are super hot. That's it. All the women are beautiful. But it stops right there. There is nothing good. The acting, the script, the casting is off. I mean, Chow Yun-Fat, what are you doing? They couldn't even put a Master Roshi beard on Chow Yun-Fat. And I asked this question earlier. I'm going to ask it again. Did Toriyama Sensei, was he approached for any input on this whatsoever? Did they even go to Toriyama Sensei and say, Sensei, is this looking all right? Because he would have said, what are you doing? I don't know the history. I have no idea what the history of Toriyama's involvement with this movie was. It couldn't have been much because there's nothing proper Dragon Ball in here. Goku isn't a Saiyan. Yes, we're talking original Dragon Ball before Z, where you get the term Saiyan, but we have to put it all together. We know that he crashed in space. He never had it. Doesn't have a tail. He's not. Piccolo is just some alien that invaded. It's not King Piccolo who then gives birth to current day Piccolo later. It's just some alien. Bulma wants to get famous by hunting down Dragon Balls and use them for a power source. I mean, I don't remember why some of the Dragon Balls anymore. It's been a long time since I did the original Dragon Ball stuff, but it's ridiculous. He's a teenager. He goes to high school. He's got high school problems. And he's struggling with his chi. And oh my God. Oh, they say ki. I fucking hate it when it's ki. No, it's chi. Don't say ki. Say chi. I fucking hate it when anybody says it like that. Say chi. Ki is the pussification of chi. The chi use of this is retarded because it's just, here's how bad it is. At one point, when he's training with Grandpa Gohan and then training with Roshi. Roshi, I'm not even going to call him Master Roshi. He's just Roshi. He's not Master Roshi. He's barely a gooner. He never asked to see Bulma's titties once. Doesn't ask to do it once. Just grabs her ass a couple times. And then after he grabs her ass, he's afraid to grab her ass. Like, I'll break your arm. You touch me. What? This is Roshi. He is an immortal master gooner. They don't even have it in there that he drank an elixir of immortality, and that's why he's lasted forever. They don't even have that in there because he dies at the end, and they use the Dragon Balls to resurrect him, which, okay, that is a real thing, but the way they do it, it's like, oh, God. So the training that Goku gets is about his chi training, but he actually calls it airbending. The Kamehameha wave is airbending, and now they just call it the Kamehameha. The Kamehameha. No, the Kamehameha. The Kamehameha wave. They don't even get it right. Airbending. What, did somebody watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? Say, oh, let's call it airbending. No! It's channeling energy. It's not channeling wind. The Kamehameha wave is not wind. It's not wind. Oh. So the whole premise of this movie is that Piccolo invaded thousands of years ago, and played by James Marsters, who has in the recent years said, "I'm sorry." He has said, "I'm sorry for doing this. I apologize to the Dragon Ball fan base for this." He invaded, and he had a servant called Ozaru, which Ozaru is not the name of a character. It's the name of a transformation. It's the name of what happens when a Saiyan goes big ape after looking at the full moon. That is what Ozaru is. It's not just what it goes. And he doesn't even go big ape. He goes like regular freaking gorilla size. It's retarded. Yes, it did. Avatar is from the early 2000s, Kel, and this came out in 2009. So yes, Avatar The Last Airbender did exist. It did exist. Somebody stole it from that when they did this shit. They did. So he invaded, and they used this pot of ages to like trap him in there for thousands of years. And then they needed to get and then the Dragon Balls exist to make him to stop. And then they used the Dragon Balls. No, when he stopped that, Ozaru was shot into the air, was shot into the sky as a meteor, and then crash landed thousands of years later as baby Goku, who was adopted by Gohan, which is true. Gohan adopts baby Goku when his Saiyan spaceship crashes to Earth. But Goku, when he was first rowdy and Gohan was defending himself, Goku hit his head and suffered memory loss from being rowdy, and then became the good-natured Goku we all know and love, not the intended planet-destroying big ape monster that he was supposed to be originally. 2000? I swear when I got it, it said 2009. 2000? 2000? You sure? Look it up real quick. Hang on a second. Look it up. 2009. 2009. I'm looking at it right here. I was right. 2009. It came out in 2009. I'm right. Dragon Ball Evolution came out in 2009. I'm right. I looked it up yesterday. IMDb says 09. It says 2009. And Avatar The Last Airbender came out in the early 2000s. Yeah, that's what IMDb says, 2009. Yeah, I was right. I'm not wrong. Anyway, so so Goku grows up, no adventures, no nothing. He goes to high school and has problems. He's in love with Chi-Chi, who goes to high school instead of everybody's kind of just mashed in this movie, and Chi-Chi is not Goku historically is, of course, somewhat attracted to Chi-Chi, but he's not really interested in her. She's interested in him, and eventually bullies him into marrying her over the years. That's how it works. And they all go to high school in modern day world. All right. And he's bullied by bullies, and eventually he does stuff to get them to look foolish and destroy themselves. It's all retarded. But eventually Piccolo breaks free, and him and this chick right here, this hot Asian chick in the corner, they're collecting Dragon Balls, and then they attack Gohan, but you already gave the Dragon Ball to Goku. And then Bulma shows up like she sort of does in the original, and then they go on the adventure, and he has the fucking power pole, and he never fucking uses the power pole. Never fucking uses it. He takes it with him and never uses it. They run into Yamcha, who is just like a even worse version of himself than he is in the anime and the manga. As I said, they find Roshi. Roshi lives on a hill in the middle of the city. He's not on it's not Kame House. It's not Kame House. He's the sage turtle. Instead, he's just an old gooner in a house who rejects the mythology built around this whole thing. And eventually they go on the adventure to get the Dragon Balls. They end up in a mountain. Ernie Hudson is in this movie. What the fuck is Ernie Hudson doing in this movie? Seriously. What is Ernie Hudson doing in this movie as a Buddhist monk? I don't know what's happening. The choreography is dog shit. A lot of slow-mo crap. As I said, the chi powers are bullshit. Nobody knows what they're doing. Goku's like, I'm gonna get revenge for my grandpa. I'm gonna stop this. And the whole thing is that because he's Ozaru, which we all fucking know from the beginning, he has to fight with himself when Piccolo tries to get him to serve him again. And then he finds balance and he beats Piccolo in their fight, which is just god awful. And then Roshi dies during it because Goku kills him when he's in Ozaru mode. And then they use the Dragon Balls, and now it's an abomination. The original Earth Dragon Balls made by Kami. The other half of Piccolo. See, that's the problem. There is zero actual Dragon Ball lore in this. None. The Dragon Balls just exist, as far as I can tell. They just exist. And they have to be brought to the Dragon Temple, and a prayer has to be issued. Now, here's the thing. The Earth Dragon Balls just need to be brought together, and you say, Shenron, I summon you. And he summons. It's the Namekian Dragon Balls that require a prayer to summon the Namekian dragon, whose name I suddenly can't remember. But so it's like they took something from Dragon Ball Z and they implemented it here improperly. It's wrong. And of course, when they finally summoned Shenron at the end, oh wow, actual Shenron is this massive dragon that can be seen for dozens of miles around because he's so massive. He fills up the sky. The sky darkens, all this stuff. This one, it's just this glowing red Chinese dragon that flies around and doesn't even say, what is your wish? Doesn't say anything. And you don't hear, your wish has been granted. That's one of the best parts when you summon Shenron. It goes, your wish has been granted. They don't even do that. They do nothing. This movie's an abomination. There's no Dragon Ball in it. None. And again, of course, you can't. I'm not comparing it to Dragon Ball Z. I'm comparing it to the original Dragon Ball run. Where Emperor Pilaf is the enemy, where Goku's a 10-year-old insane little maniac. Goku is a maniac as a kid. He's a maniac with no fear. And he goes on all those adventures. This guy's just, I want revenge, and he's a goofball, and he's a nerd, and he's in love with Chi-Chi. And that's it. And I want revenge for Grandpa. I'm going to stop Piccolo. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. And Bulma's a bitch, but not in the good Bulma way, And this movie was bad. Just bad. And out of the two right now, I hate this more than The Room because this is an insult to me as a fan of Dragon Ball, of the Dragon Ball franchise. It's an insult to me. It's an insult to try and cram. I mean, the hunting for the Dragon Balls takes like 30 minutes because Piccolo got a few and they got a few and then he stole them. And this is, it was bad. I hated it. It's an insult. Like I said, they use the terminology, the names, but they have zero proper meaning and usage. For this hour and 25 minutes, only an hour and 25 minutes, felt like 3 hours. I could see why for the longest time this was the worst movie in the world. Because it is. And there's no saving it. There's nothing good about this. It wasn't good at all. The action wasn't good. That's how terrible it is. At least give me some good high-flying wire kung fu action, but no. You don't even give me that. Give me terrible movie. Ugh. If I wasn't Dragon Balled out at the moment, I'd go watch some Dragon Ball. But I'm Dragon Balled out. I'm still Dragon Balled out from recent exposures. All right, there it is. Thank you for sitting through this review with me. The chat made me do it. All right. That's 2 down, 1 to go. Although we may, I think you know what? I think I need a break tonight. I think I need a break tonight. I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do, uh, I'm gonna do Death Note tomorrow. I'll do Death Note tomorrow, and we'll do the review on Friday and the comparison on Friday. I need a break tonight. I need a break. I can't watch another bad movie tonight. It's just I want to have fun tonight. Mm. While I was doing that, Diz the Jizz for $5. Check Discord, just homepage in English. Okay. All right. So let's fire up the Discord and check that before we start Warhammer Wednesday stuff. And let me check Stream Elements as well. Okay. Still good there. All right. Discord is doing its Discord thing. Give it a second. Anyway, thank you everybody for showing up today. I appreciate everybody joining me. If you are having a fun time, please hit that like button. Please hit the like button. It's an easy way to show your appreciation. Costs you nothing, just a click. All right, Discord. Shit, Discord's doing its weird thing. All right, that might take. Discord's doing its thing where it's downloading the update, but then doesn't download the update and then restarts itself. Maybe. So we'll give this a second here, and we'll see what happens. That's the problem. Sometimes that happens to me. Although I guess I could open it up on browser if it's just my messages. I don't need to get in. Not like I need to get into the voice chat. I could just do that. Nope, here we go. Nope, there we go. It's loading up. Here we go. Why is Discord always at the fucking update? I don't understand that. Why always got to update? Retarded thing. God, I wish things were simple again. I wish they were simple. Come on, start. You silly bitch. Okay. Let's go. Let's see what we got here. Load. Thank you. Okay. Translate Polish to English. Okay. Translating. It didn't translate. Where was the thing? Damn it. I said translate, but oh wait, we click on the English button. There we go. Oh, okay. Okay. This is just for $5. Be cool men. Masculinity, fertility, future. All right. All right. What is this? What is this? Cool men. Cool tech was developed as a result of cooperation between the world of technology and the medical environment as an innovative solution presenting a completely new approach to the problem of male infertility. The company was established in Warsaw? Especially Warklaw? It's just a Warsaw in 2016 by a group of men and women combining the knowledge and experience for graduates of Warsaw University in Technology and the Warsaw and Warklaw Medical University. Okay, whatever. It's words being used. In the duty of the very precise mission to help men become fathers. The main goal of Cool Tech is to create a supply of the highest class medical devices supporting non-invasive infertility treatment for men. The company makes every effort to ensure that Coolman device meets the strictest quality requirements in accordance with global standards for production of medical devices. The company has implemented the whatever quality system in accordance with the EU regulation as of April 5th, 2017. All right, so apparently you strap this shit to your junk and what? Coolman effective. I don't want to read this. Coolman effectively improves semen parameters and sperm quality. This increases the chance of pregnancy and shortens the time of trying for a baby. Coolman has been designed to be completely invisible under clothing, providing full discretion during use. Coolman is made of certified antibacterial materials. In many cases, Coolman's use helps to avoid the surgical treatment of varicocele and perioperative risks. Ergonomic and modern design makes Coolman comfortable to use and fit to the body. Made of lightweight and flexible materials, is practically undetectable in use. So you strap it to your junk. Coolman is an innovative device that stabilizes the temperature to the testicles in the optimum range. In short time, Coolman significantly improves semen parameters, contributing to the increased fertility of the couple. Coolman can record data about the temperature and time of the use, as well as types of activities, sleep, sitting, physical activity, jerking off, by wirelessly transferring it to the mobile application on the smartphone. These data can be analyzed by the andrologist to improve the treatment process. Coolman is protected by an international patent, blah, blah, blah. Coolman power pack, charger, car charger. Yes. I need to charge my ball cooling unit in the car. Oh, man. Okay. Testimonials. No. All right. Here's the thing. Ever since I of course have no evidence to support my case because I have not fathered a child. But I have been wearing, ever since puberty hit me, and things changed and things dropped and things got bigger, I stopped wearing tighty whities and I started wearing boxer shorts because I was told by a doctor way back then, let the boys breathe. Don't constrict them with your tighty whities. It's not healthy for your boys. So I went the way of boxers, and I've been happy ever since. They're free. They're happy. Yes, they're there. They're always going to be there. They got to get moved around, but they're not constricted. They're comfortable. So, considering my entire pubescent to adult life, my gentlemen have been hanging free and unimpeded inside nicely loose boxer shorts, I'm pretty confident that I don't need a Coolman to increase my fertility. I think my boys are probably just fine. I think everything's probably just fine. And one day, I truly do hope to prove that. Coolman, listen. If I ever did need it, I would rather, of course, do something that is non-invasive. I have a firm no sharp object policy in that region. You don't take pointy objects down to manland. You don't. No pointy objects in manland. That's a thing. No pointy objects. So I'm not freeballing. No, I'm not doing that. There's gotta be a thin layer of fabric between me and whatever pants I have on. There must be a thin layer of fabric. There has to be. I am not commandoing it. No commando. No commando. I do not like the idea of commando. I like a layer of fabric between me and stuff. I like that. It's comfortable. I mean, does it bunch up when it gets up? Of course it does. But just open your pants, move things around, and buckle back up. All right. Thank you, Diz, for this. Oh man, I swear to God, you find these things. This is weird stuff. Oh boy. All right, let's start Warhammer Wednesday. Let's begin Warhammer Wednesday with this article that I just found. Let's start this because I would love to have an update, a good update on Cowell's 40K stuff over on Amazon. So let's bring this up. Let's give it a read. Games Workshop says its contract with Amazon prevents it from revealing any details on the Warhammer 40K cinematic universe, but shares promising sounding update on scope and scale. All right, let's zoom in again. These things take several years to bring to market. Work on Warhammer 40K cinematic universe continues. GW has said in its latest financial report, but don't expect any significant news anytime soon. It'll be several years before anything comes of it. That, man, I need it. I want it now. I want it now. That's a brief message from the UK company issued to investors as part of its annual report this week, which also included a promising sounding update on what to expect. Former Superman actor and Warhammer 40K superfan Henry Cavill is set to star in and executive produce the Warhammer 40K franchise across all Amazon Studio productions after Games Workshop and Amazon finalized a deal last year, the last-minute deal. We covered that on other streams. Cavill's 40K cinematic universe is shrouded in mystery, and GW itself has cautioned fans not to expect to see anything of it for some time. Still, fans are excited about the prospect of finally seeing Warhammer 40K brought to life in live-action form across films and TV shows. With Cavill steering the ship, they're confident it will be done right. That's what we're hoping. That is what we're hoping. However, condensing the vast scope of the IP into films and TV shows while sticking to a reasonable budget may prove a challenge. Warhammer 40K is a highly detailed setting, as we know from all the lore videos we watch, so it's covered a lot of stuff. Very hard to do. That's why you have to be careful with what you do. That's why fans have wondered about the story Amazon plans to tell with its 40K project. Perhaps something a bit more grounded that doesn't necessarily revolve around Space Marines is a more realistic option. No, you've got to have some Space Marines. Just don't try to cover the major events. That so far, that's my thought. Have it be just random stuff taking place amidst everything. That's very easy. But you got to have some Space Marines. You need Space Marines to start off. They're the most easily recognizable aspect of 40K. Such as author Dan Abnett's much-loved Eisenhorn series, which follows the Inquisitors Greg Eisenhorn and Gideon Ravnor as the heretics and demons. Yeah, but people want Space Marines. I want Space Marines. I mean, granted, today we are going to go over Inquisitors today. That's our lore. But I think if you want to get people's blood pumping and you want to grab everybody's attention, you start with a Space Marine adventure. It's that easy. But if Amazon wants to go full-blown Galactic Space Marine, it could tell the story of the sprawling and foundational, the Horus Heresy saga, or perhaps pick one of the more famous battles in the current setting, such as the Fall of Cadia. Either way, realizing 40K in live action is a huge undertaking, which is why GW's statement in the financial report has fans purring. On the 10th of December, 2024, we announced the conclusions of our negotiations with Amazon for the adaptation of Games Workshop's Warhammer 40K universe into films and television series. Together with associated merchandising rights, the project continues to in line with our contractual agreement with Amazon. This same contract prohibits us from sharing any specific details or commercial terms. We have great partners who continue to display their commitment to present Warhammer authentically and at the scope and scale befitting our fantastical setting. This is a long-term partnership with Amazon, and there won't be any significant news in the short term. These things take several years to bring to the market. So that's basically it. This tells me, one, if they're taking their time and Cowell's going to take some time, then good. But what Amazon needs to make sure they do is stay out of the way. And I think that's a possibility because Amazon is the distributor, but it's going through Henry Cavill's production company. So it's not like whoever's in charge of Prime Studios now, it can lean on Cavill to do shit. Cavill is essentially going to do what he wants to do. And that is, I think, the best possible outcome right now. That's what I feel. So I guess it's going to be a while, and we will just have to wait and see. And I look forward to this. I really do. Now that we're getting more and more into the lore, when the time comes, I'm going to be properly armed to review this stuff. I'm going to be properly armed. So this is good. This is good. I'm ready for it. My body is ready for this, as the kids say. All right, there you go. That's good warm up now for our Warhammer Wednesday. So let's get started on the rest of Warhammer Wednesday. Kel, for $60, has given us a three-parter to watch. Let's get those links. Let me get those links. First one, here we go. All right. First one up. Bippity boppity link. Oh boy. We are going to be here for a while, it seems. Let's get into it. No more dilly-dally. No more shilly-shally. Let's dive right in. Thank you, Kel. Let's get started. All right, Arbiter Ian. We like Arbiter Ian. Let's go.
Hi, gang. The Inquisition is one of the most singular and terrifying institutions in the Imperium, dedicated to the investigation and countering of any threat. The agents of the Inquisition are one of the most learned, diverse, and specialized of the
Also dogmatic, insane, heretics.
Imperium's forces, armed with the authority to requisition anyone in the Imperium to their service. Inquisitors face demonic corruption, alien infiltration, and heretical cult uprisings on an almost daily basis, assisted by a dizzying array of specialists and warriors. But while the Inquisitors of the Ordos, in theory, have the ultimate in Imperial power, this is held in check by the web of Imperial politics, the dubious oversight of their fellow Inquisitors, and their own organization's many, many different factions. Look, everyone, it's a magic space frog, the real originators of 40k. Details of how to get that and more at the end of the video. The Imperium of Man in Warhammer 40k is constantly in a state of peril. Alien invasions, chaos incursions, the armies of the Imperium are constantly engaged across 1,000 war fronts in the defense of the Emperor's realm. But the true threat to the Imperium comes as much from within as without. Corruption, heresy, deviancy, and recidivism are constant threats. The worlds of the Imperium riddled with alien influence, cults dedicated to dark gods, and straight-up rebels whose actions, if left unchecked, can spiral into vast new war fronts. And dedicated to fighting those threats from within is the Inquisition. The Inquisition is one of the most terrifying and powerful...
Everybody expects the Inquisition in Warhammer 40k. They're going to come. They're going to be there.
...organizations within the broader Imperium, granted total authority to act in whatever way they wish by ancient charter. The Holy Ordos of the Emperor's Inquisition is a watchful eye on not only the...
Now, I assume we're going to get the hierarchical breakdown, because I don't know what the hierarchy of the Inquisition is. I don't know.
...common citizens of its worlds, but also the highest of its offices. Nobody in the Imperium is safe from the judgment of the Ordos, from the lowest sector administrator to the most powerful High Lord of Terror.
Except the Emperor, and I would say are the Primarchs, are they susceptible to the Inquisition? I would feel like a Primarch would say fuck off. I feel like they could.
The skilled people sworn to its service, the the Inquisitors themselves, are lone operatives, warrior, scholars, and secret agents armed with the authority to command entire armies, requisition fleets, order assassinations, or sanction the exterminatus of planets. Every individual Inquisitor is empowered to investigate any possible threat to the future of humanity, whether that threat comes in the form of chaos corruption, alien incursion, or simply political inefficiency. There are no bounds to their jurisdiction. They can operate as infiltrating detectives hunting down the seeds of corruption and heresy in person, or as knowledgeable savants conducting research too sensitive or corrupting for lesser minds, or as crusading warriors leading forces into battle at the head of powerful war bands of specialist soldiers drawn from every part of the galaxy. Their reach is limitless and their power almost infinite, and every common citizen of the Imperium lives in fear of their watchful eye coming to rest on them. But as with any organization that powerful, the Inquisition is also fractured, broken down into a colossal number of ordos, conclaves, local cells, and philosophical factions that can often work against each other as much as they work together. For the Inquisitors of the ordos, their work might be as political as it is practical. And this has been the case since they were first formed by one of the political masters of the early Imperium in the days following the Horus Heresy. Because of the nature of this subject matter, the history...
So, Primarchs can be investigated. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess after Horus, a Primarch shouldn't be above the law. But it's a Primarch. It's a Primarch.
History of the Inquisition is obviously shrouded in mystery, but by the consultation of multiple documents and by piecing together their salient points, it is now possible to piece together its origins. The Inquisition was created at the very end of the Horus Heresy by Malcador the Sigillite, apparently on the direct orders of the Emperor of Mankind. Malcador was the Regent of Terror, the right hand of the Emperor himself, a spy master and politician who was behind many of the early institutions of the Imperium, from the Assassinorum to the civilian government of the Council of Terror that would later turn into the Adeptus Terror. He was a perpetual, the Emperor's oldest ally, and a psyker of immense power, and throughout the Crusade and the Heresy, he operated a hand-picked private army of skilled operatives called the Chosen of Malcador. These men and women, joined during the heresy by individual Astartes that had been orphaned from their legions for various reasons, were dispatched throughout the galaxy at his command. They were special agents, knights errant, who could rescue ancient artifacts before the fires of the Crusade.
That is not the man beard I would expect on a Space Marine. I feel like that's not proper code. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think I've ever seen a Space Marine with that kind of man beard, that full-on man beard.
They'd consume them or whisk away promising individuals for interrogation or continued service. Malcador would eventually die in the final hours of the Siege of Terror, taking the Emperor's place on the Golden Throne while he fought Horus on the Vengeful Spirit. But before this, he gathered together 12 of his operatives, 8 Astartes warriors and 4 mortal humans, and he presented them to the Emperor as an insurance against the days to come. The 8 Astartes, their psychic powers individually awakened, would eventually go on to become the first Grand Masters of the Grey Knights chapter, stationed on Titan, which was hidden from the eyes of the Imperium for centuries while that chapter built their strength, and their story will be told elsewhere. But the 4 mortals, individuals of character, skill, and determination, would be tasked with creating another new organization. An organization dedicated to investigating and unveiling threats to the Imperium from the alien, the mutant, and the heretic. the Orders of the Emperor's Inquisition. There are a few candidates in the records for exactly who these first four were. A number of people were prominent agents in the service of Malcador, but from later records it seems that the four consisted of Zaranchek Xanthus, one of the chosen of Malcador, who was privy to some of the darkest secrets of the heresy, including contingency weapons in case of Horus's victory.
Ooh.
Kyril Sinderman, the former primary iterator, that is propagandist, of the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet, which was Horus's fleet.
Of course, you've got to have somebody to be your propaganda in chief, their propagandist in chief. You can't have an Inquisition without propaganda. You can't. That makes total sense.
He'd escaped to Terra when the War Master turned traitor, and had then become a convert to the new faith of the Lectitio Divinitatis, the faith that worshipped the Emperor as a god. He took on a new name, Veritas. The third was Promius, originally the remembrancer Lemuel Gormon, a former businessman from Nordafric on Terra, who, as a remembrancer, was attached to the Thousand Suns Legion. After a series of events across the galaxy during the heresy, including being imprisoned by the Space Wolves and then hosting a shard of Magnus the Red within him, Promius was now a very powerful psyker. And then finally, the fourth was Moriana. And there are a few different Morianas who are around at the end of the heresy. It gets a bit confusing, but the most likely is that this is Moriana Malhausen, another prominent member of the Chosen. When the Senatorum Imperialis was convened on the first anniversary of the Emperor's ascension to the Golden Throne, the High Lords of Terra gathered. It said that a grim-faced man bearing the highest authority presented himself as the representative from the most holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition, and since then the Inquisition in some form has been a watchful eye over the activities of the rest of the Imperium. Of course, behind the scenes, factions have started to develop, while two of the founders, Xanthus and Veritas, clove close to the Senatorum, developing this new role in the organization. The other two, Moriana and Promius, were avowed resurrectionists. They believed that the immediate goal of the Inquisition...
From the sound of that off the top, he's going to explain that in a second, but really, resurrectionists. I don't know. That sounds pretty sketchy to me. That sounds pretty sketchy. Then again, don't look closely at what we do while we judge everything you do.
Should not be establishing government, but seeking ways to bring back the Emperor. This caused a rift within the original four, with Promius and Moriana leaving the new organization and striking out on their own. In fact, much of the early organization of the Inquisition might have been developed by Xanthus and Veritas as a way of combating the efforts of the other two. But soon after, those two split again. Promius, horrified by Moriana's willingness to investigate the darkest of sorceries.
See, that's it. That's what I'm talking about. You start messing around with shit like that, you're getting close to chaos. It's bad news.
In pursuit of a solution, and after a series of running battles, Moriana eventually vanished, and Promius rejoined the ranks of the Inquisition proper. At this point, the Inquisition was still heavily focused on the great archenemy of the Horus heresy, the powers of chaos. But by M32, a new threat would emerge during the War of the Beast.
Look at that. That is a... if I was more up to date on my 40K Orc Warlords, I'd probably know who that is, because I used to know more about the fantasy warlords, because I had my manual that detailed a bunch of them in there, and I had the miniatures too. But that's an orc, baby. That dude is probably 15 feet tall monstrosity. That's how big an orc warlord's got to be. Got to be the biggest, nastiest MFer out there. Look at that guy. Wog!
When vast orc forces, who had been left to grow in power after the heresy, united and eventually laid siege to Terra in a war that threatened to tear the newborn Imperium apart. The war eventually saw the formation of the Death Watch, an ad hoc organization of veteran Space Marines from different chapters that combined their skills to fight against the new Xenos threat. And near the end of the war, the Inquisition officially split its focus into two Ordos Majoris. The Ordo Malleus would continue, as the Inquisition had always done, researching and combating the forces of chaos, with their Chamber Militant, the forces under their command, being the Grey Knights, at this point very much still a secret. The Ordo Xenos, on the other hand, would concentrate on any alien threat, with their chamber militant being a ratified and formalized Death Watch, expanded and seeded across the galaxy. That situation continued for another 4 millennia until a third was added in M36, after the ruinous Age of Apostasy. In this period of Imperial history, the High Lord Gouge Vandire had seized control of the two most powerful offices in the Imperium, becoming Master of the Administratum and Ecclesiarch, and had then engaged in a paranoid reign of terror before being eventually deposed by the preacher Sebastian Thor. In the wake of that, the Adeptus Ministorum, the church, was banned by decree from having men under arms, and a new ordo, the Ordo Hereticus, was formed, partly to watch for signs of religious degradation and partly to watch over the church itself. The Ministorum responded to this loss of power by forming the Adepta Sororitas.
Right now, I'm just trying to absorb the bureaucracy being thrown at me here.
The Sisters of Battle, exploiting a loophole in the wording so that they only held women under arms. While this was quite a controversial move at the time, it was permitted on the basis that the Adepta Sororitas would also serve as the chamber militant of the Ordo Hereticus, which made them another watchful eye over abuses of power by the church. And over that same 5 millennia of splitting, many, many more smaller ordos would be formed, each designed to combat very specific threats to the Imperium, and to support that, a whole structure would develop that allowed this colossal organization to function. However, at its core has always been the lone Inquisitor. In the Imperium of the 41st...
That's right. Show us one with titties. He did that on purpose.
Millennium, Inquisitors are still officially independent Imperial agents.
Essentially, I see a witch hunter here. That's what I see from fantasy. This is a witch hunter.
Individuals who investigate and prosecute threats against the Imperium as they see fit. Inquisitors can turn their attention towards anything they wish. Alien plots, heretical cults, demonic incursions, laxity in the duty of those who are meant to serve the Imperium, even criminal enterprises. Any of those could be the focus of an Inquisitor's investigations. The mandate of the Inquisition is the survival of humanity, and so any threat can come under their jurisdiction. An Inquisitor's power is technically unlimited. An Inquisitor is granted the right to requisition any personnel or material they deem necessary to deal with a threat, from individual agents and soldiers seconded to their control for the duration of a mission, to vast battle fleets and armies that move at their command. Nobody in the Imperium is beyond service to the Inquisition. Entire worlds have been judged and convicted for their crimes by the servants of the Ordos. Planetary populations retasked because of some ancient crime or grand plan on the part of the Inquisitor. An Inquisitor...
This just has the feel of too much power. Too much power. These individuals who can roam all over the galaxy and on a whim, if they feel like they've got enough evidence, do something like this. This is crazy.
In theory, answers only to the authority of the God Emperor of mankind, and any power up to and including the exterminatus of entire planets is within their remit to call upon. However, given the nature of their work, the vast majority of Inquisitors and inquisitorial actions are on a much smaller scale. The movements of massive armies, the bombastic declaration of a system-wide purge, the open toppling of corrupt governments, all those are very public actions. And while those might have a purpose sometimes, it's much more likely that an Inquisitor's investigation...
Toppling of governments. That one jumped out at me there.
Especially in the early stages, requires some level of secrecy. Inquisitors move within the shadows of the Imperium at large, often posing as other authorities or as agents, seeking out evidence of heresy or tracing heretical leads back to their roots. Inquisitors might present as bombastic generals and figures of awe, but it's more likely that they conduct themselves as somewhere between a detective and a secret agent.
Yeah, these are not guys who are going to be out there in powered armor, busting nuts. I don't see that.
peeling back the layers of conspiracy, infiltrating heretical schemes, and nipping threats to the Imperium in the bud way before they grow to the scale where a battle fleet is necessary. Because of this, the Inquisition is seen as a clandestine and mysterious organization, and mystery and fear are essential tools for its operatives. To the lay citizen of the Imperium, an Inquisitor is a terrifying figure, an embodiment of the highest authority they can imagine, and the sight of an inquisitorial rosette, the traditional symbol of authority, is enough to induce bowel-loosening terror.
Bowel-loosening. Interesting phrase to choose there. Bowel loosening.
And a desperate need for them to confess their sins. Within the Imperium, tales of the Inquisition, when they're even spoken of at all, are synonymous with the disappearance of loved ones, the uncovering of horrific cults, or the arrival of war. And this fear is something the Inquisition encourages all the way up to the...
All right, I'm going to up this to him going a little bit faster, considering we've got 3 to get through. I'm just going to up his up the speed just a little bit here, because we still got a lot to get through, and I feel like we'll be here until 5 o'clock if I let home go when I stop to make conversation.
Highest positions in the Imperium. But while that fear is justified, the authority of the Inquisition is unlimited, in reality there are a lot of limits on what an Inquisitor can do. The obvious ones are, as we said, due to the nature of their investigations. An Inquisitor operating under disguise can't easily requisition an army to their cause. But even at the very highest levels, what an individual Inquisitor can do is limited by the resources available to them and by the politics of the Imperium and their own organization. An Inquisitor might well uncover a heretic cult that needs dealing with, and they might also requisition an army to do it, but where's that army coming from? What forces are available? Does that requisition require pulling an Astra Militarum force away from another war front, one that the army's commanders, or maybe other Inquisitors, consider to be a far greater priority?
That's a good point.
Alerting those figures ahead of time risk exposing their investigation and warning the enemy? Who makes the call in those situations? An Inquisitor might well decide that, say, a Space Marine chapter is derelict in their duty and should be punished or even destroyed, but where will they amass the forces to do so, and at what cost? Will other Inquisitors disagree or consider the loss of life required to be wasteful? The Adeptus Mechanicus is technically under the auspices of the Inquisition, but woe betide any Inquisitor who assaults or trespasses on their realms without authorization. An Inquisitor is only human. To infiltrate a sovereign body of the Imperium or to deploy to a battle alongside an army that resents and hates you might not be the wisest move. In fact, these clashes can frequently bring Inquisitors into violent conflict, with many thousands of such agents active across the Imperium, all with their own investigations priority.
See, to me, that's not to actually say it, but it's chaotic almost. Not, you know what I mean? I'm not calling it chaos, but the fact that they're all acting under their own abilities. It's a little unfathomable for me that anything gets done if they're not answering to really anybody, it seems.
And theories, and all with ultimate and total authority, it's inevitable that they occasionally come to blows, and many Inquisitors have been dispatched by their rivals for threatening their own, of course, completely vital investigations. So while each Inquisitor is technically a free agent with total authority, the Inquisition has developed various layers of organization, ranks, and sub-departments to make sure its agents' work doesn't clash too often. At the highest levels, the Inquisition is represented by the inquisitorial representative to the Council of the High Lords of Terror. This isn't the leader of the Inquisition. The title of inquisitorial representative is more like the first amongst apparent equals, and at various points in the time, that job has been a long-term position held by a particularly politically savvy or prominent Inquisitor Lord, well known to the other High Lords, or it has been a rotating cast of different individuals, a different person appearing as representative whenever the Council of High Lords meets, selected by some obscure process within the halls of the inquisitorial fortress under Antarctica on Terra. Their position is less as a member of the government and more an advisor informing the High Lords of emerging threats to the Imperium, as well as reminding the assembled worthies of the consequences of failure. The Inquisition doesn't need to court the High Lords for permission to act, but moving the great armies of the Imperium into action is certainly easier with them on side. Below that singular role, there's an obscure and secretive system of subdivisions, but the one that most Inquisitors will be familiar with is the Conclave. Conclaves are regional assemblies of local inquisitors who watch over a particular area of space, usually controlled from an inquisitorial fortress on a prominent imperial world, and who collectively hold dominion over local military bases, safe houses, and some spacecraft for use by any of its members. Conclaves are ruled over by inquisitor lords, particularly well-regarded and experienced inquisitors who hold the collective respect of the members. Bigger conclaves might have multiple inquisitor lords, each representing the will and requirements of different ordos, and they then command the loyalty of a number of independent roaming inquisitors.
So much bureaucracy. I mean, I understand it's a large-scale empire and all that stuff, but that's the thing that's really sticking out to me. It's just so many different levels within the levels.
Conclaves are functionally gatherings of peers. Individual inquisitors might often bring leads or concerns to their local conclave in search of support or advice from those more experienced or who are in command of more forces than they are. But doing this is not without danger. Conclaves are political hotbeds full of inquisitors with their own agendas from different ordos or with different philosophies, and often an inquisitor will quietly develop a lead themselves, only bringing it to the attention of their conclave if it becomes a much larger threat than originally anticipated. Conclaves might then respond by forming a cabal of inquisitors tasked with prosecuting that threat. Usually inquisitors...
Are they going to have tits busting out of their tops like that chick? Sorry, had to.
With a particular specialism or interest in the threat at hand. In some less populated areas, conclaves and cabals might even be basically the same thing. Above and across those regional loyalties of conclaves lie the Imperium-wide loyalties of the Ordos. Ordos are broad divisions within the Inquisition, originally based on interest and now very formally arranged, each of which deals with a specific threat, and inquisitors are free to join or leave a specific Ordo as they see fit. The three most well-known of the Ordos are the Ordos Majoris, the Ordo Malleus, the Ordo Hereticus, and the Ordo Xenos. The Ordo Malleus is the oldest. Known as the Demon Hunters, the Ordo Malleus comprises some of the most knowledgeable, incorruptible, and dangerous inquisitors in the galaxy, all dedicated to fighting against the warp-born horrors of chaos and the eternal threat of the demon. The Ordo Malleus is the smallest of the three major Ordos, and in some ways the most closely knit, for their role requires the sharing of vast amounts of demonic lore. The Ordo's base is in their vast library complexes amid the rings of Saturn, defended by their own powerful fleets, where new additions to their ranks can train and build up their defenses against the warp. Given that their chosen role involves battling humanity's most terrible enemy, Ordo Malleus Inquisitors are frequently amongst the most martial of Inquisitors, often leading armies from the front, clad in heavy armor and wielding vast demon hammers inscribed with sacred
demon hammers! Demon hammers.
Words and blessed sigils. The perils of the warp also tend to draw inquisitors who have psychic talents into the Malleus, who might then strengthen their willpower in its training halls. The Ordo Malleus deals with a danger so terrible that even knowledge of it can be corrupting, and so the Order is not only
the whispers, it's coming in back. Give it in, kill the president.
One of the most secretive, but also one of the most brutal when it comes to suppressing its own actions. Since knowledge of the demonic can spread corruption, Malleus Inquisitors would often think nothing of exterminating whole settlements or scuttling whole craft, even executing their own conscripted forces in the wake of their successful campaigns, lest any rumor of the demonic spread. This also extends to the Ordo's Chamber Militant, the psychic space marines of the Grey Knights, also based on the moons of Saturn, a force so secret that other forces who fight alongside them are frequently mind-wiped, permanently seconded to inquisitorial service, or just executed. The Ordo
or just executed. Whatever. You've served your purpose. We'll grow a few more.
Xenos has a rather different character. The threat of the alien is one that covers a huge variety of different species, all with their own particular dangers. From over-warlike Xenos, like the Orcs and the Tau, to the ever-present threat of infiltration by gene stealers or enslavers, to the prospect of ancient species such as Necrons lying undisturbed on Imperial worlds, Ordo Xenos Inquisitors must be alert to many different forms of danger. Many Inquisitors of the Xenos specialize in specific alien species, learning all they can in the hope of thwarting whatever plans that those species have, or providing the military forces of the Imperium with tools to use against them. Because of this, the Inquisitors of the Ordo Xenos often have the demeanor of researchers or academics, or well-traveled explorers bedecked with the various artifacts, weapons, and even species they encounter on their travels. Xenos Inquisitors are often found in the company of rogue traders or other voidfarers, pursuing leads into lost or unexplored corners of the galaxy. And their dedicated Chamber Militant is one of the most widespread of all. The Death Watch are a Space Marine force formed in the aftermath of the War of the Beast, dedicated to combating the threat of the alien. Death Watch fortresses take in Space Marines from many different chapters, all seconded to their service for years at a time, and combine them into kill teams at the disposal of the Ordo Xenos. The Death Watch research ways to better counter alien threats, utilizing experimental technology to do so. That information is then spread amongst the Imperium's defenders. Marines returning to their chapters after their secondment bring with them valuable knowledge and tactics learned in the halls of the Death Watch or adopted from the battle brothers they met, battle brothers who came from other chapters. And then finally, the Ordo Hereticus is the youngest and largest of the three major ordos formed in the wake of the Age of Apostasy, and concerning itself with hunting down the heretic, the witch, and the traitor, the threats from within. Inquisitors of the Hereticus tend to be notoriously pious, with maybe more than a touch of paranoia, for their enemies are everywhere, lurking amidst every Imperial population. The Ordo Hereticus considers threats across countless fronts, and so the Inquisitors of the Ordo tend to be more concerned with the big picture than others. The purging of mutants by their warbands of flamer-armed
Get the muties. Get the muties.
zealots, or the hunting down of psychers, is often just the first step in uncovering the cause of such corruption. And Inquisitors of the Ordo have no qualms excommunicating nobles and governors, or issuing pogroms and purges against whole planets to stop.
I feel like the Hereticus, I would hate them the most, because it's like, what are you doing? These are the people that chase shadows. I feel like the ones that chase shadows could cause the most damage.
New uprisings from occurring. While they're known as witch hunters, Hereticus Inquisitors often make use of their own sanctioned psychers in their work, or may be psychic themselves and thus fully aware of the dangers the warp presents. Their warbands are often very large and zealous, composed of preachers, lay faithful, or even the more dangerous fringe sects of the Imperial faith, like redemptionists. Their relationship with the church.
Oh, redemptionists, dude. Redemptionist gang. I had one of my buddies played a redemptionist gang in Necromunda. Fucking redemption. I fucking hate fighting redemption. Flamers fucking everywhere. Flamer. Ah!
Is often quite a strange one. Officially, one of the roles of the Hereticus is to police and watch over the Adeptus Ministorum for spiritual laxity and corruption, so that an event like the Age of Apostasy can never happen again. But in reality, many Inquisitors are individuals of such strong faith that they often find common cause with the confessors and cardinals of the ecclesiarchy, working alongside them against other factions of the Imperium. That is a similar role to their most common militant order, the Sisters of Battle. Officially, the Sisters of Battle are the standing army of the Adeptus Ministorum, sworn to the service of the Church. But during their founding, in the Convocation of Nephilim, oaths were sworn between the heads of the Sororitas and the first masters of the Ordo Hereticus, a secret compact of aid, which means that while the Sisters of Battle are not officially a chamber militant of that Ordo, they're often all too happy to place themselves at the disposal of a pious Hereticus Inquisitor, and more than willing to turn on their masters in the Church if they suspect corruption or heresy. Below these three Ordos Majoris and their militant chambers are many more Ordos Minoris that concern themselves with more specialized threats to the Imperium, or are dedicated to watching over specific bits of the Imperium. For example, the Ordo Militarum.
Is there an Ordo in the 40k universe committed to like destroying furries? Because I'd be okay with that.
Concern themselves with the actions of the Astra Militarum, the Ordo Machinum, the same but for the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Ordo Sicarius were founded to monitor the Assassinorum, and the Ordo Astartes keep watch on the various Space Marine chapters as much as they're able for any signs of corruption. The Ordo Scriptorum keep a secretive eye on Imperial.
Furryism is heresy of a different sort.
Records and communiques, while the Ordo Scriptus oversees Imperial historical archives, and the Ordo Originatus are dedicated to researching those archives to uncover the true history of the Inquisition. Conversely, the Ordo Redactus are dedicated to obliterating any mention of the true origins of the Inquisition.
Hi, we want to know the truth. Oh, we're going to hide the truth.
Ordos Minoris might even form and disband as they become necessary. The Ordo Maledictum keeps watch on the spread of the Great Rift, whereas before its emergence, the Ordo Aegis was the organization dedicated to watching over the Cadian Gate, and the Ordo Sepulturum, one of the newest Ordos, was formed specifically to counter the threat of the zombie plague that emerged during the 13th Black Crusade. Finally, beyond the requirements of local conclaves and below such grand allegiances as membership of an Ordo, Inquisitors still might hold wildly different beliefs on the priorities of their organization and the best way to achieve the protection of the Imperium. These beliefs are often referred to as philosophies or just factions, and they can be wildly diverse. An Amalathian inquisitor, for example, might believe that the best way for the Inquisition to act is to reinforce and strengthen the Imperium's divinely ordained institutions so that they can do their job effectively, and anything that threatens the authority of those institutions is a threat to the stability of the Imperium. Their job should be to preserve the status quo. On the other hand, a recongregationist inquisitor might argue that their job should be to constantly test those institutions, to force them to shake up and reappraise their own organizations to combat laxity and corruption, and may favor pushing or even strategically destabilizing them to force growth.
Let's make an Ordo to go out there and protect the titties. Our Ordo, our mission is to protect the titties. That's what we do. I need to get my back scratcher. Let's keep going.
Growth and change. We talked about resurrectionists, and resurrectionist factions still exist in the Inquisition, who believe the most important goal should be the return of the Emperor, or the manifesting of his divine will, like the Thorians, who seek out what they call divine avatars, or the Ardentites, who look for signs of the Emperor's will being made manifest in humanity, so they can divine the best way of protecting his Imperium. There are many of these beliefs and philosophies, but broadly they are separated into two camps, those of the Puritan.
That bothers me. It's like, oh, it's like seeing Jesus in a tortilla chip. That's the equivalent of seeing Jesus in a tortilla chip. Oh, there he is. There's Jesus in the tortilla chip. He's manifested that. We have to not eat. We can't eat those corn chips because I saw Jesus' head in it. Oh, he's manifesting over here. Those are the dangerous motherfuckers.
And the radical. Puritan inquisitors tend to believe in the accepted truths of the imperial creed that any imperial citizen would recognize, that the Imperium as it stands is fundamentally correct, that its institutions should be upheld, and that any hint of deviancy or influence from its enemies is to be prosecuted without mercy.
Right.
However, the path of the inquisitor is a long and complicated one, and the people
that's great. Guilty until proven guilty. Guilty until proven guilty. That's what that is.
walk it are exposed to far more of the truth of the universe than is usual for a human. Many inquisitors discover ways in which they might better protect the Imperium by changing it, by reforming its institutions, by using ancient knowledge taken from cultures that predate humanity, or by co-opting and utilizing the tools of the enemy. These radical inquisitors still fight to protect the Imperium. Their methods are just more flexible than their Puritan counterparts. A Puritan inquisitor of the Ordo Malleus might, rightly, burn any artifact tainted by the powers of the warp, seeing them as a dangerous and corrupting influence, while a radical might seek out forgotten and heretical texts, hoping to use their dark power to help them close a warp rift or counter a demonic incursion. They might take up demonic weapons or create demon hosts, all the better to fight against the servants of chaos, even if their Puritan counterparts...
Do you realize what we got to do? We come a goddamn demon host. Do you understand the problem that happens? Demon host? What's the matter with you?
Accuse them of heresy for doing so. A Puritan Xenos Inquisitor might prosecute campaigns of extermination against alien enclaves using their specialist knowledge to inform the purges of the Death Watch. Whereas
that's fine. Go kill Xenos. Go kill them.
Radical might seek to learn from those Xenos, searching for established ways to combat a more dangerous threat, making use of ancient Xenos artifacts, or even including xenoforms in their warbands. There are a massive number of Puritan and radical philosophies.
There's nothing wrong with using alien tech. Nothing wrong with that. That's different from using demonic tech. Alien tech's fine.
Amongst the Inquisition, with a diversity of opinion over the correct way to carry out their duty. And most of those divisions exist without too much in the way of violence, but sometimes a particular faction carry their beliefs too far, delve too deep into heretical knowledge, and it's not unknown for inquisitors, or even whole factions, to be declared excommunicate traitorous by the grand conclaves of the Inquisition and then purged by their peers. Of course, while we tend to talk about inquisitors as individuals, in reality, no inquisitor goes about their duty totally alone. It's usual for inquisitors to be accompanied in their investigations by a number of acolytes, assistants, specialists, bodyguards, and trainees that form a retinue. For newer inquisitors, these retinues can be quite small. A trusted warrior or two, a savant or sage, a sanctioned psyker for following the trail of their enemies, maybe a pilot or navigator for their personal craft, or servitors with various roles. Many inquisitors include within their retinue an interrogator, an inquisitor in training, often the most prominent of their acolytes and one who's shown the most promise as a potential servant of the Ordos. But as the inquisitor rises in power and influence, their retinue might become like a small army in itself, warriors drawn from all cultures and arms of the Imperium, from skilled veteran guardsmen down to brutal gang fighters recruited from the depths of hive cities, or death cultists from the many primitive worlds of the Imperium. They might be accompanied by representatives from other branches.
Question. All right, boys, do you risk it? Do you risk it? I say no. I am not risking it with that. I am not risking that. That's dangerous right there. That's dangerous. They'll bite your penis off.
Worlds of the Imperium. They might be accompanied by representatives from other branches of the Imperium, such as astropaths or tech priests of the Mechanicus sworn to their service, specialist investigators seconded from the ranks of the Adeptus Arbites, whole offices of scribes and researchers to track their operations, and a small group of interrogators, explicators, and other assistants that lead smaller warbands on the Inquisitor's behalf, following multiple leads at once across a system. Inquisitors have been known to found whole schools or training facilities just to provide them with the specialists they require. And outside that trusted network of servants, many Inquisitors cultivate vast networks of informants, lesser contacts who can keep watch for any interesting leads. When combat's required, an Inquisitor's retinue is often capable of handling that threat directly, the Inquisitor and their most skilled acolytes forming a warband that's more than capable of taking on cult gatherings or small-scale criminal enterprises. But when a larger attack's required, an Inquisitor can then call on significant military resources. The Inquisition maintains good relations with the Militarum Tempestus, and its scions are often the first forces requisitioned by an Inquisitor when military expertise is required. Many famed scion regiments have long and storied histories of inquisitorial service. In fact, many conclaves raise and maintain their own dedicated regiments of inquisitorial stormtroopers that are permanently seconded to the Inquisition and
that kind of makes sense because it's, and he might explain this in a second here. It's not like you can formally, outside the Death Watch, harvest a Space Marine unit because then comes the issue of the gene seed. You're loyal to your gene seed. The Death Watch are a special case because they're all there for whatever reasons, but they can't have that. They can't basically call up Space Marine units like that. In this case, it seems this makes sense. Easier to call up the normies, the regulars, human type stuff, than call up Space Marines
in their fortresses, either whole regiments raised from scratch for that purpose, or forces of grim-faced veterans drawn from a dozen different security forces, equipped with their own transports, orbital insertion craft, and support staff. Larger conclaves and ordos maintain fleets of inquisitorial cruisers and warships, and even larger numbers of small shuttles, gun cutters and gunships, many of which serve as their inquisitors' bases of operations on extended deployments, and are equipped with their own sworn navigators, astropaths, and warp capability. All of those are readily available forces, the sort of thing that any inquisitor could command with relatively little preparation, only the agreement of his conclave. But beyond that, the Inquisition can then requisition anything from local PDF regiments or Arbites patrols to full-scale armies or battle fleets, should the threat be deemed large enough by their fellow Inquisitors.
And there it is. I mean, if the threat is large enough, then you call in some chapters. You put out the call. But it has to be big enough. And that we're talking monumental threat. Until then, you call in the smaller forces. That I understand.
By its very nature, the Inquisition is one of the most varied and diverse organizations within the Imperium. Its remit is nothing less than the preservation of the Imperium and mankind from any threat that can be imagined, and the myriad conclaves, cabals, chambers, ordos, and philosophical factions, the very independence of the Inquisitors themselves, is a way of ensuring that the organization always has some method of countering an enemy. That method might involve infiltration or assassination conducted by an Inquisitor and their crack team of specialists, or it might be a sector-wide crusade enacted at the will of the High Lords by the entire armed might of the Imperium, and where the Inquisition serves as merely the catalyst, a source of specialist knowledge, an early warning system, or the watchers over its prosecution. Inquisitors are simultaneously the highest authority in the Imperium, a terrifying reminder of the reach of its government and the insignificance of its citizens, but also the Imperial agents most likely to be lurking among them, dealing with threats far closer to home than a planet-wide war zone. Inquisitors could be roving secret agents, dedicated researchers, bombastic demagogues, or seasoned judges, or all of those in the course of one career. And that's what makes them so useful in the setting. Within the game, Inquisitors are this handy way of introducing characters that can fulfill a number of roles that aren't within a massive all-consuming army, roles that work really well for point of view. Inquisitors often operate as basically detectives, which makes them useful as protagonists because they also have to figure out the mystery of whatever they're investigating, just as the reader is figuring out the mystery of Warhammer 40,000. But at the same time, this is 40k, so the person cast as the most outwardly relatable, the one we might most easily recognize if we're getting into 40k, is also the one with the most horrific powers. The Inquisition is a symbol of how little the Imperium cares for the regular human and how far its end justify the means beliefs can be taken. So Inquisitors end up as this simultaneous way into the setting, method to introduce the lives of the people behind the battlefront, and also a representation of the absolute worst tendencies of the Imperium, which makes them very good antagonists as well. There's a reason why so many novels are written about Inquisitors. They allow someone a believable way into the setting we all love, while still being appropriately horrible for 40k. Thanks for watching.
All right, that's first one down. Let's bring up the next one. Oops. Got to do the thing. Your shoe fell apart, Cal? Well, I can't help you with that. I am incapable of helping you with that. It's beyond my powers. All right, part 2. Oh, wait. Did I choose the wrong one? Oh, no. Oh, okay. I think you double posted that one. Yeah, okay. You double posted that one. Okay. All right. Puritan faction. Puritan faction. Okay. No duct tape on hand. All right. Let's start with the next one. All right, this one's a little shorter. We're still gonna 1/4 speed it because we still got a whole another one to get through. Nope. Damn. Like, how did it fall apart? How did it fall apart? Where did it fall apart? Heel, toe, top? I'm kind of curious. All right, let's bring this up. Let's make sure it should still be quickified. All right, here we go.
Hi, gang. With the Imperium beset on all sides, one
Puritan
common question within the Inquisition, those agents dedicated to protecting it from enemies within, is, well, what's the best way to do that? An Amalatian might argue that it's by upholding imperial institutions, whereas a recongregator might say that those institutions need constant reform. A Thorian might seek signs of the return of the God Emperor, whereas a Xanthite might merely seek the darkest knowledge he can find. There are as many philosophies within the Inquisition as there are Inquisitors. So in this video, let's go through all of the main ones. Look everyone, it's a magic space frog, a real originators of 40k. Details of how to get that and more at the end of the video. The forces of the Inquisition
while we're doing this, I remembered, I didn't look it up, the Slan priests, the lizardmen, the powerful among the lizardmen, the Slan priests. I remember that. Hail Miami Geek Gaming. Thank you. Yeah, I love Star Trek. If you want to check out me talking Star Trek, go check out Duke Devil 95, Bradley Burnett. That's his channel. Every week, not this week because he was on vacation this week. Every week we talk Deep Space Nine. We are watching it all the way through for a couple of new guys who've never seen it before. So you can catch the edited versions every week on his channel. I am a part of that panel if you want to hear me talk some Deep Space Nine. But thank you for joining the channel, dude. Welcome. Check out the rest of the channel. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Right now, we're continuing with Warhammer Wednesdays right now.
Group. The agents of the most holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition are highly independent, each of them free to pursue the security of the Imperium in their own way, whether hunting down rogue cults on overpopulated hive worlds to leading vast armies in the eradication of a Xenos threat, their only oversight being the watchful eye of their own peers. Of course, over the millennia of its existence, this has led to there being a number of different schools of thought within the Inquisition on the best way to actually protect the Imperium. What is the most pressing threat or the most promising path forward? An Inquisitor only has limited time available to them. How should they spend it? Where should they focus their efforts? There are as many different opinions on this as there are Inquisitors, and the correct way to prosecute the defense of mankind can be a common topic of conversation or conflict in
And there probably is going to be. I mean, he's covering essentially the same thing, it looks like. This one's Puritan, and what was the other one? The other one was Radical. So, yeah, because one obviously wants to probably crush the other, as it were. Go back. Dang it. All right. There it goes.
Inquisitorial conclaves. But sometimes, some schools of thought become so popular that they become broad divisions by which the entire organization can be sorted. One example of this is the Ordos, the three Ordos
He's also
Majorus of the
reusing his
Inquisition, the Ordo
imagery.
Malleus,
He's
Hereticus, and
reusing
Xenos, are groupings of
his
Inquisitors who
visuals
pledge their lives to
from the
fighting against
last
one of the
video.
main threats to the Imperium, the demon, heretic, or alien. And those are so powerful that they are organized institutions with their own Lord Inquisitors and conclaves spread across the galaxy, even their own specialized militant chambers
All right,
from where
boys,
Inquisitors
again, do you risk it? I don't risk that. Not at all.
can draw armed forces. And of course, there are even smaller Ordos Minoris that concentrate on more specialized threats to the Imperium, like the Ordo Kronos, who investigate time-based anomalies, or the Ordo Redactus, who seek to keep the origins of the Inquisition safe. But running alongside all those formal divisions is the well-known divide between the Puritan and the Radical. Puritans are Inquisitors who generally believe in the base tenets of the Imperial faith, as handed down to its citizens. Heretics and those who question the Emperor are evil and morally corrupt. Any truck with them is corrupting by association. Xenos are horrific and unholy and should be purged. Corruption and witchery should be rooted out and brought to light. That sort of thing. And then by comparison, Radicals are those who've developed a looser relationship with the tenets of Imperial faith, often by long exposure to the truth of the galaxy. Radicals might favor shake-ups in the status quo, investigate Xenos or heretic artifacts in order to see if they hold any benefit for humanity, or seek to use the weapons of the enemy against them. An Inquisitor might veer between those two sides over the course of their careers, starting out young and full of Imperial zeal with no tolerance for those who deviate from it, before slowly, as their investigations continue and they learn more of the galaxy, becoming enamored with some grand scheme or promising find that might help them save humanity if only they have the courage to grasp it. And of course, that can be a dangerous road.
You see, that's the problem. It's one thing, I think, if they are grabbing Xenoscare, whether it's Tau or Eldar or some shit like that, that's different. You're not going to become corrupted. It's just technology. Technology itself, hard science technology, can't corrupt you. But if you're using chaos-infused junk, the whispers will get in your head, man. Get in your head. And then next thing you know, you're peeling off your skin, screaming, "Blood for the blood god! Another skull for the throne."
If Radicals have a tendency towards arrogance, Puritans are wont to see all Radicals as hopelessly corrupted heretics, and wars within the Inquisition have been fought many times between adherents of those two sides. But in reality, even those two sides are too simplistic. For within the broad lines of Puritan and Radical lie a number of different factions and philosophies, some millennia old and some only transient, specific to a particular sector or period of time. Some of these factions are huge and well documented, akin to common beliefs and schools of thought within the Imperium at large, things that might be considered common sense on many Imperial worlds, and others a little more than deluded sects with their own fringe ideas about the nature of the universe, or have even delved so far into forbidden knowledge that membership of them is now considered gravely heretical in most conclaves. The most popular of these are probably those that cleave closest to the general beliefs of the Imperium, the large, well-known factions that can broadly be termed Puritan. And it's here we can start. The Puritans comprise some of the largest factions within the Inquisition, many of which have roots millennia old and whose beliefs are mostly considered unsurprising within the halls of imperial governance across the galaxy. They're dominated by three large and powerful factions, and then there are a number of sub-factions that are offshoots of those larger ones, often versions of the larger factions but with a more specialist focus. Puritan factions rarely have any need to be secretive, and the three big ones would be very recognizable to any Inquisitor in the Imperium. In the current setting, the largest faction within the Inquisition by far is the Puritan faction known as the Amalathians. This faction traces its name to a great event at the start of the 41st millennium. But in reality, this was really just a new label for a belief system that was already very common and can be argued to be the closest to the original stated goals of the Inquisition itself. Amalathians take their name from the great conclave on Mount Amalath on the imperial shrine world of Gathalamor. For a brief period, at the dawn of the 41st millennium, it felt like the Imperium was regaining its strength, and the conclave drew a great procession of imperial military might. Lord generals, political and religious leaders, even hundreds of Space Marine chapter masters gathered to renew their oaths to the Imperium in a great ceremony, and many of those in attendance were filled with hope and a spirit of great unity. A general mood grew in the Inquisition, at least in the Inquisitors that attended, that the Imperium was once again proceeding the way the Emperor intended, and a number of Inquisitors started to name their beliefs after that conclave. Amalathians believe that the organizations, systems, and practices of the Imperium are fundamentally good and ordained by the Emperor himself, all part of his plan for humanity. Yes, There might be friction. There might be squabble.
The funny thing is, I mean, we've touched on it throughout the other videos. And remember, my exposure to the lore is what you guys put in front of me, because I have held back on further exploring, because then what's the point of Warhammer Wednesdays? We're teaching me as much as other people about things. Remember, my lore is mostly fantasy from way back in the day. My 40K was dangerous knowledge, casual knowledge, but nothing in depth. In the past month, 2 months, we've increased my knowledge tenfold. But I still don't know what the Emperor's plan is. I still don't know what the Emperor's plan is. I don't know. It has not been made clear to me, other than, maybe fuck the Xenos, fuck chaos. I don't know.
Between agencies, but fundamentally the Imperium is working as the Emperor intended, and the goal of the Inquisition should be to foster that and prevent anything that might destabilize it. Amalathians strive to maintain the status quo. Their missions are less concerned with traditional crimes like mutation and witchery, or fantastic goals involving the metaphysics of reality, but are more street level. They concern themselves with tracking down cults, recidivists, political rivalries, or criminal enterprises that might see Imperial rule threatened or reduced on either a galactic scale or a very, very local one. The institutions of the Imperium are considered divinely ordained, and their function must be protected. Any change to them, any political upheaval or radical new idea is to be considered a threat, whether that threat is underworld criminality, making imperial processes less efficient, or political unrest or religious sedition. Amalathian Inquisitors tend to work slowly and relatively quietly, often cooperating with other branches of the Imperium or seeking to foster better relations between them. They have great respect for the Imperium's authorities, and so they're less likely to flaunt their rank or their seal, more likely to quietly entreat aid from those organizations than, say, bulldoze through them, waving their seal around and demanding the requisition of vast armies. In fact, Amalathian Inquisitors tend to take a very poor view of those Inquisitors who claim to know the Emperor's will like that. They see them as arrogant and very destabilizing. For them, nobody can know the Emperor's thoughts. They can merely seek to uphold his institutions as he intended and to prevent anything from happening to them. Amalathians do not often sit in judgment. They recognize that those with power in the Imperium have a considerable amount of leeway to act on their own beliefs and protect their own positions, and they're only likely to step in if an individual's action starts to threaten the operation of other Imperial branches. A high-ranking adept feathering their nest isn't really that much of a problem. A high-ranking noble feathering their nest in a way that affects efficiency is. Our second philosophy, though, is very different. Monodominants are in many ways the opposite extreme. In fact, monodominants are very much the Imperium and Puritanism taken to extremes. To a monodominant, the Imperium is fighting a war for racial survival, and anything thing that might have a chance of threatening that should be ruthlessly crushed. The only way that humanity can guarantee the realization of the Emperor's vision is if every other species, any deviation from glorious humanity in the galaxy, is killed. Monodominants are incredibly intolerant of any wayward behavior. Xenos, mutants, abhumans, psychers, any deviation at all is considered heresy, and there's absolutely no excuse for heresy, for contemplating heresy, or for abetting heretics. And furthermore, if they can kill enough of those heretics, then natural selection will prevail and mankind will come to dominate the galaxy. They are the bigotry of the Imperium turned up to 11. This credo, known as monodomination, was originally developed in M33 by Inquisitor Goldo, an ancient Inquisitor moving into retirement, and at the time, it was almost immediately sidelined as a devout but maybe very old Inquisitor giving into pessimism in his old age. However, centuries later, the philosophy saw this strange revival under Inquisitor...
The ultimate curmudgeon. The ultimate curmudgeon goes, damn it all. I hate it all. And with enough power to say, yes, I'm going to instigate the murder of everything because I don't like anything anymore.
Germinius of Pilusia, and ever since then, they have been a vocal minority belief amongst Puritan Inquisitors. Monodominants are often younger and a lot more hot-headed than other Inquisitors, their belief in the teachings of their faction completely unshakable despite any evidence to the contrary. Their bombastic creed leads them to act very openly. In fact, monodominants often cultivate a sort of cult of personality around them to inspire terror in their foes. Monodominant Inquisitors might eschew subtlety and subterfuge and instead arrive on a suspected world with a large and imposing fleet, thousands of followers broadcasting the suspected heresy of the inhabitants until the fearful citizenry rise up in a frenzy of violence directed against anyone the Inquisitor might see as less than human. Monodominants are rarely shy about requisitioning the forces of the Imperium for their own ends, including violent fringe religious sects like the Redemptionists. They're uncaring of any misguided violence enacted in their name, as long as it serves their wider purposes. and are by far the most likely to use exterminatus on guilty planets.
Oh,
in fact,
geez.
in their eyes, any Inquisitor who would not do the
There's one mutie on that planet. That woman had 3 boobs. Annihilate it all.
same, or has the temerity to suggest that the actions of monodominants might do more harm than good, is little better than a heretic themselves, and monodominant inquisitors are regularly involved in feuds with their brethren. The third of the large Puritan factions are a little different, and like the Amalathians, though they derive their name from a recent event, their beliefs stretch back to the founding of the Inquisition itself. Thorians take their name from the Age of Apostasy, when the tyrant Goge Vandire, who had risen to become the de facto ruler of the Imperium, was overthrown by a preacher named Sebastian Thor, who united many different organizations within the Imperium on a crusade of light headed directly to Terra and deposed the High Lord. So the Thorians, Sebastian Thor was just one example of a person moving with the spirit.
Isn't that the Golden Throne right there? That's the Emperor on the Golden Throne. At least a representation of it, right?
Of the Emperor, guided by his divine will. To Thorians, the Emperor has ascended the mortal realm, the body on the Golden Throne merely earthly remains, and he influences the world by investing individuals with a portion of his power. Sebastian Thor, the living saints, various inspirational leaders and preachers over the millennia have all been what they call divine avatars, mortals invested with the power of the Emperor, and the job of them as Inquisitors is not only to seek those people out, but also to protect and aid them in doing the Emperor's work. Furthermore, many Thorians believe that if people can still be invested with a portion of the Emperor's divine will, then the next step would be the reincarnation of the Emperor entirely, if only the correct prayers are spoken and a host.
Didn't I hear last year in some of the lore that the throne is empty now? That the Emperor has left the throne, and people were like, what the fuck? I swear I heard that somewhere. I swear I did.
Strong enough is found, a belief called resurrectionism. As such, Thorians tend to spend their time on the study and development of warp technology, or in the research of religious texts that might uncover ways in which to manifest the Emperor's spirit more effectively. There are numerous of them amongst the Ordo Malleus, where knowledge of the warp is concentrated. They're also quite active in the Ordo Hereticus, and they maintain good ties with the Ministorum, allowing them to follow the trails led by the saints of the past. While Thorianism is considered a Puritan faction in the 41st millennium, it should be obvious that attempting to resurrect the divine spirit of the Emperor is a controversial view amongst the Inquisition.
Yeah.
Thorians are merely one expression of two much older traditions, those of incarnationism and resurrectionism. And resurrectionism in particular has a long, complex, and very divisive history within the Inquisition. Two of the four founders of the Inquisition were resurrectionists. In the immediate aftermath of the Horus Heresy, they were mostly concerned with finding a way to bring back the Emperor. And their beliefs and the beliefs of resurrectionist factions that came after them have led to numerous wars within the Inquisition and to Inquisitors taking steps down very dark paths indeed. There are a number of resurrectionist radical factions. The Thorians, of course, claim that humanity needs the Emperor more than ever, and that their mission is for the good of all humanity, even as their opponents worry about the political ramifications of bringing an avatar of the Emperor back into existence 10,000 years later. However, mostly Thorians are considered part of the Puritan creed. Also, given its great age, resurrectionism has resulted in a number of smaller splinter groups over the years that are still generally grouped as Puritan. The Anomalian Beholders are on the more conservative end of this. They find the idea of creating the Emperor's divine avatar to be close to hubris, and instead they concentrate on traveling the galaxy for signs of existing divine avatars, observing and studying them, and potentially aiding them if needed. They're some of the most well-traveled Inquisitors in the Imperium, tending towards a practical and sensible mindset, their work considered to be a necessary step in preparing the galaxy for what they feel must be a naturally occurring rebirth of the Emperor. It's not something you can force. Also, in the smaller factions, Ardentites are an offshoot of the Thorian belief system, but they don't identify either as incarnationist or as resurrectionists. Instead of believing in specific divine avatars, the Ardentites counter that the Emperor is likely to manifest in humanity as a whole, perhaps by shepherding its psychic evolution or improving the talents of its leaders over time. The Emperor is certainly present, but he works through the whole of humanity, not through special saints. Ardentites are known as eccentric but thorough investigators, dedicated to uncovering evidence of the Emperor's hand moving unseen through the galaxy. Though, because of their constant search for proof of these theories, they're also derisively known as miracle chasers by some other Inquisitors. These factions can be very specific. Cassophilians are a great example. The Cassophilians concentrate on the story of Saint Cassophili, who was killed by the dark forces of chaos before miraculously rising from from the dead days later, with stories of this sea of sound and color they experienced while dead. Casophilians are resurrectionists who concentrate on that truth, that there might exist a place where a soul can reside intact within the warp, and therefore there might be a way of bringing them back intact from the Sea of Souls. Seeing themselves as researchers and openly embracing new theories, the Casophilians are frequently skilled demonologists given their long study of how entities might cross the veil. And then the Revivicators refine that even further, touching on the extremer ends of Puritan philosophy, possibly even touching on radicalism. Revivicators study the soul at the point of death to see if it will be possible to transfer it elsewhere instead of to the warp, with the ultimate goal of freeing the Emperor from the Golden Throne. Because of this, the Revivicators have a great interest in the technology of the Eldar and their ability to save souls from the warp by transferring them into spirit stones, which obviously pushes the boundaries of what you could call Puritanism. All of these factions are finer and finer delineations of some of the most common belief systems in the Imperium, those that define Puritanism. The belief that the Emperor's institutions are just and right is essentially the Amalathian, that the alien, heretic, and witch are to be abhorred is essentially the Monodominant, and that the spirit of the Divine Emperor watches over them and moves with all things is fundamentally the Thorians and a lot of the fringe sects. It's only as Inquisitors investigate further and further that they end up with such a specific set of beliefs as, say, Casophilians. Puritans are the bedrock of the Inquisition, the ones who can call most reliably on its armies and tend to receive the most widespread support from their fellow Inquisitors and their local conclaves. While many Puritan actions occur in the shadows as their agents track down threats to imperial safety, Puritans rarely need to conceal their methods. Backed up by the beliefs of the vast majority of the Imperium, they can act openly, and many Puritan Inquisitors are justly famed by the end of their lives, retiring with a great legacy of countering the enemies of the Imperium, purging recidivists from its worlds, and bringing the guilty to justice by methods subtle or extreme. Puritans are the dominant and most visible and famed force within the holy ordos of the Emperor's Inquisition. However, the career of an Inquisitor is usually long and complicated, and it involves exposure to the truths of the universe few other human minds would be able to withstand. And while the Puritans might react to this by armoring their wills and closing their minds like a fortress, plenty of Inquisitors move closer as they age to the path of the radical, the belief that by studying the tools of their enemies, mankind might discover its salvation. And we'll go through their factions, and there are a lot of them, in the next video.
Yeah, that's the next one now. And because see that the Puritans got to believe, oh man. All right, later, Legatus. We got one more video to go. And that's the funny thing right there. Like, they're basically like, hey, yeah, Emperor is all. And it's like, wait a minute. We learned last time that the Necrons and the lizard people and the and the Eldar and the Orcs, they preceded the Emperor. They were there first. No! Heresy! Heresy! So, yeah, it's wild. It's wild. All right, we got one more to go. Oops, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I wanted to do. Bring window back up. Okay, uno más. Uno más.
Hi, gang.
All right, there we go. Whew, wow, this took longer than I thought. One more to go. Let's go. Radical. Okay. Boom.
Hi, gang. The agents of the Inquisition cleave to many different beliefs, often ones dogmatically held by the great institutions of the Imperium. But not always. Sometimes the path of the Inquisitor leads an agent to darker knowledge, forgotten secrets that might be controversial to embrace, and the Inquisitors that do walk a precipice, the path of the radical. Look everyone, it's a magic space frog, the real originators of 40k. Details of how to get that and more at the end of the video. So, in the previous video, which you can watch here, I covered the main Puritan factions of the Inquisition. Inquisitors are individuals tasked with the safety of the Imperium of Man, but while that goal is clear, the methods for getting there can be very varied. What's the correct way to ensure the safety of the Imperium? Common belief would hold that it's simply by upholding the dogmatic truths at the heart of its religion. The Imperium is an institution blessed by its God Emperor. Its authorities should be upheld, deviation and heresy should be purged, and any sign of corruption or of consorting with outside influence should be met with overwhelming force. These would be common beliefs anywhere in the Imperium. But inquisitors occupy a unique position, and their investigations frequently lead them to encounter philosophies, ideas, artifacts, or ancient knowledge that most people have no access to, secrets of the galaxy that might be useful in their quest to protect humanity, dark sorceries that might save a world, alien artifacts that might help turn the tide of chaos, even subtle destabilization in an attempt to provoke political reform. Inquisitors that embrace any of those methods are termed radicals. The term covers a massive variety of beliefs and philosophies, some of which might be considered merely eccentric in the halls of the Inquisition, whereas others are considered so heinous and heretical that members of their sects are ruthlessly hunted down. But all radicals have one thing in common, a belief that the Imperium must change or must embrace some hard truth or outside influence in order to succeed. And only the radical has the strength of will to take on that task and to know where to stop, where not to cross the line. But this is a dangerous path. While many radical sects are very well known in the Imperium, their Puritan brethren are always wary, and radicals are often driven to secrecy lest they be denounced for taking things too far, which can make radicalism and its many, many factions very difficult to accurately track. Because of this, the radical factions of the Inquisition are far more diverse than the Puritan ones, which is also why I put a lot of the introduction in the other video. There are loads more of these guys. Given the nature of radicalism, the belief that the Imperium should be changed in some way, and the fact that many radicals hide their beliefs from open criticism, there exists a massive spread of different radical sects and cells.
I mean, that is essentially it goes against everything the Imperium, as we've come to understand, stands for. You believe in the Emperor's plan. The Emperor had a plan, and we're on a freaking crusade. And by saying the Empire needs to change, the Imperium needs to change, these guys are borderline heresy by these definitions that we come to know and understand in this. So yeah, this is dangerous shit. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Dangerous. I got the hiccups. Let's go while I get rid of my hiccups.
Across the Imperium, far too many to fully count, and more than a few who have been hounded into extinction once they went too far. However, it should be remembered while we go through them that the vast majority of radical inquisitors are still, first and foremost, defenders of the Imperium, loyal, if questionable in their methods, and most radical philosophies, while not welcomed by their Puritan brethren, are still tolerated within its ranks. Recongregators take one of the broader approaches to radicalism in the Inquisition. According to the creed of recongregationism, the Imperium is constantly at risk of becoming decrepit and corrupt, its systems no longer capable of effectively doing the job they were designed.
All right, let's be clear. It kind of is broken and corrupt. It has degenerated. There's nothing new because we've learned about this in the other thing. There's no, because of the Adeptus Mechanicus, they don't allow any innovation. There's no idea for any advancement in the tech they have. Only can find old tech, which used to be great, to make the current tech better. So, and even then, they don't release it if they find it. They sit on it. They work on it. So, it is the Imperium is degrading on a massive scale. And once again, we question what the Emperor was going to do. What's his plan? And is the Emperor really as smart as he thinks he is?
Designed for, and so to keep from stagnation, the myriad organizations, institutions, and authorities of the Imperium must be periodically shaken up, lest they fall into lassitude and complacency. Too much disruption, of course, might be counterproductive. So recongregators prefer to work from the inside, infiltrating and destabilizing imperial institutions, ousting corrupt leaders from positions of power, and replacing them with forward-thinking new leaders with the courage to enact political change. In this way, the systems that the Imperium relies on might be kept fresh and new, able to adapt to a changing galaxy. Recongregators are also not above infiltrating anti-imperial cults and recidivist organizations, slowly shaping their goals to match the Inquisitor's own, and then using the cult to provoke the sort of change they want to see, which, of course, can make them a nightmare for other Inquisitors. In particular, their views are often in direct opposition to those of the Amalathians, who fundamentally believe in the preservation of imperial systems.
Everything's fine.
Isthmanians are a little more extreme, taking the beliefs of the Recongregators and applying them to a galactic scale. The Isthmanians are named after the system where Horus first declared his rebellion against the Emperor, massacring his own loyalists, and then 3 legions sent to bring him to justice and setting off the Horus heresy. But while the Horus heresy saw billions Isvanians die in the fires of war and the near collapse of the Imperium, to the Isvanians, this was ultimately a good thing. The heresy exposed those amongst the Primarchs and the legions who were secretly disloyal. Its aftermath solidified and strengthened Imperial military institutions, and of course, it led to the ascension of the Emperor to godhood. For the Isvanians, humanity truly shines, truly shows its strength when it is tested, when it's plunged into the fires of war and catastrophe, only to emerge stronger and more unified than ever. Only by passing through near destruction can the weaknesses of mankind be purged, and the Isvanians are willing to spend the lives of Imperial citizens if necessary to achieve that goal. Because of this, Isvanian Inquisitors try to propagate strife throughout the Imperium any way they can. On the more benign end, this might involve fanning the flames of war or building up an external threat, hoping that the different branches of the Imperium who involve themselves are forced to work together to achieve victory. However, Isvanians are quite happy to fan the flames of inter-imperial conflict too. Bombastic and open, Isvani Inquisitors will set institution against institution, set world against world, spreading propaganda and distrust, and provoking all-out civil war and conflict. They foster relationships with violent imperial cults, building them up into bigger and bigger threats in the name of testing the armies of the Imperium against them, all for the purpose of purging the weak and keeping the armies of the Emperor ever trained and vigilant. Isvanians spread strife wherever they go, working on the paranoia of imperial populaces and the fear of commanders in order to provoke change and ultimately, as far as they see it, strengthen the Imperium. But there are obviously many who are against this. Isvanians are often considered untrustworthy by more Puritan Inquisitors, frequently appearing to support Imperial actions, but with ulterior motives or plans afoot behind the scenes. Many times, Inquisitors have been dispatched to purge a cult or a revolutionary cell, only to find that an Isvanian is behind them, deliberately encouraging the conflict for their own ends. But despite the machinations and political maneuvering of the Recongregators and the Isvanians, Xanthites probably fit the stereotype of the radical Inquisitor the best. Xanthites believe that in order to triumph over the forces of chaos, the Imperium should utilize the tools of the enemy against it. Because of this, for many Puritan Inquisitors, Xanthism is synonymous with radicalism. Xanthism is actually one of the oldest traditions in the Imperium, having been present since the formation of the organization, and has spawned a number of sub-factions over the millennia. But the core belief of the Xanthite is that the warp and chaos are merely reflections of humanity's real space existence, and thus...
What? That's insane. Oh, wait, so... Korn, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Zinch, they don't really exist. It's just a reflection of humanity. Motherfucker, them gods are real. The demons, oh, no. They just, no. That is twisted shit right there. That's some twisted fucking shit. No.
Can never be truly defeated. So the warp must be studied, investigated, and if necessary, utilized in order to best keep humanity safe. Chaos must be treated with caution, but should also be used for the advancement of humanity wherever possible. After all, isn't that what warp travel and astro-telepathy already do? Xanthites study and research the warp, investing its power into themselves where possible to aid in their job of seeking out threats to the Imperium. Xanthites might use chaos-tainted artifacts or demon-possessed weapons to aid in seeking out and defeating threats to the Imperium, or use the rituals of the enemy to successfully return a demonic threat to the warp. Though their philosophy may at first seem counterintuitive, if a planet is threatened by a warp rift, then surely simply enacting the chaos ritual that closes it is the best way to save Imperial lives. So say the Xanthites, but for many Inquisitors, this is akin to walking along a precipice. Xanthites often start out merely investigating the dark powers of the warp in order to solve or thwart a mystery, but their path inevitably ends up in the use of those powers, the use of dark warp sorcery, the summoning of demon hosts, or the wielding of demon weapons, all to complete their missions and vanquish the heretic, of course, but who's to say where they first cross the line into eternal damnation and corruption of the soul? Xanthite Inquisitors tend towards arrogance, commonly seen as chasing personal power at any cost, and many have been declared traitor, hunted across the galaxy, and eventually burned at the stake for going too far in the eyes of their peers, including the founder of the movement, Zaranchek Xanthus in M32. But accusing rival Inquisitors of holding the beliefs of the Xanthite can be a risky business.
Well, all right, you bring that up, Kel. Here's the thing, though. That could be the case of any god. There's a lot of theory in mythological and divinity ideas that gods come into existence because enough people will it. But once it's there, it's there. Once a god is brought into existence and gains its sentience, the word just left me. the combination, the coalescing of beliefs and wishes and dreams brings this god to life. Once it's there, it's there. It's a god. And some gods require worship to keep going. But others, once they're alive and they're a god and they're powerful, they're there. So the thing is, yeah, the Eldar may have created Slaanesh, but once he's there, he's a god. For better or for worse. So that kind of is, oh, it's always going to be there. No, the Chaos Gods exist now. They exist, and they're going to be, and they are a problem that are not going to go away. Because ain't none of these motherfuckers in this universe a God Slayer. None of them. Except the Emperor. And he barely beat Horus, and Horus was still a man. Essentially. So, there's, the gods are gods, dude. Once they're there, they're a god. They ain't going anywhere. No pretending that we can just utilize it exists, especially with the Chaos Gods. They will corrupt you every goddamn time.
Xanthite Inquisitors are particularly prominent amongst the Ordo Malleus, who already tread close to the powers of the Warp, and aided by its dark power, Xanthite Inquisitors can be some of the most personally powerful Inquisitors in the galaxy. Xanthism is one of the oldest factions in the Inquisition, composed of some of the most learned Inquisitors who have dedicated their lives to combating the most powerful of demonic threats with their own arsenal of tainted artifacts, demon hosts, and dark sorcery, and attempting to take one down can easily backfire.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that's something I learned from that. But at the same time, how does that explain? This is just devil's advocate. They also exist in fantasy. So I would posit that the gods exist. Once they exist everywhere. And they don't need what's going on here to subsist. If my point is being clear. Once they exist, because we know the warp, the chaos void, exists outside of time. So I would feel as though once the chaos gods are out there, they're out there. They're not going anywhere. So to believe that coexistence, just it's always going to be there with me, to me that is critically bad thinking in that sense. So that's my point on that. Once they're there, and they're not going anywhere. Because as I said, none of these guys are god slayers.
With such a broad remit and having existed for so long, Xanthism has a number of different offshoots and breakaway factions. Ablationism is a development of the Xanthite creed that
I mean, fantasy and 4K are separate, but I think the fact that the chaos gods exist, they transcend everything because they now exist. The chaos, the warp, the chaos void exists outside of time. Therefore, the chaos gods are permanent. They're not going anywhere. I say that again. They're not going anywhere. They are there. So they're apples and oranges, but the constant are the chaos gods. Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Nurgle, they are constants in both worlds now, depending on, the point in the timeline. So chaos exists everywhere, which means, as I said, it transcends it. And there's no accepting it. There's no working with it. You have to accept it. There's no working with it. So that's how I interpret that. That's how I interpret it.
Promotes the immolation of the self in the name of the Imperium. The ablationists believe, as many hardline Puritans do, that any contact with the warp or chaos artifacts is damning. Therefore, since the tools of the enemy must be used against it, they willingly accept that they are damned for the good of the Imperium. Ablationists will use the darkest sorceries, the most heinous and dangerous rituals, all in the name of defeating chaos, since, of course, there's no point trying to protect their own souls. They're already damned. This extremist belief, though, has resulted in a massive amount of animosity by ablationists towards the rest of the Inquisition. In the eyes of an ablationist, other Inquisitors are either weak-willed fools who won't utilize the power of the warp, hopeful, maybe idealistic, but naive and barely worthy of regard, or they're the worst kind. They're other Xanthites who are happy to utilize the power of the warp, but somehow think they can remain uncorrupted. The warp corrupts, and the only Inquisitors that the ablationists believe should be permitted to use it are those willing to be corrupted. Anyone else is a threat that needs to be eliminated. Ablationists are often loners. They have little respect for inquisitorial rank or conclave, seeing every other inquisitor as either naive fools or outright threats, and their plots are often targeted directly at other members of the Inquisition, which makes them an outlawed faction in much of the Imperium. Phainonites are another fringe offshoot of Xanthism. They originated on the dead world of Phainon Prime in the Xaniad sector, a planet that had risen up in a Chaos Rebellion and then been destroyed in the fires of Exterminatus by the Xanthite Inquisitor Acquire in M39. However, the Inquisitor's conclave then interdicted the system with the intent of studying the demon engines created by those renegades. Within a few decades, a new philosophy was spreading through the local conclaves. The Phainonites started research into long-dead science from the Dark Age of technology that blended machine forms with the energy of the warp. Taking over local heretic cults, the Inquisitors had started researching ways of melding demons with dark technology and had even abandoned a direct belief in a god emperor because of this. Of course, this was heresy of the Greatest Order, and not only was the movement declared excommunicate traitorous, but the Adeptus Mechanicus, who are quick to stamp out anything that might resemble the Dark Mechanicum of old, moved into the system, tore a moon from orbit, and used it as a missile to destroy the planet. Since then, the Phainonites have been a rare philosophy, but one that does still exist. At the core of their research is the enslavement of demons of the warp and their binding within technology for the betterment of humanity. That the servants of the Dark Powers do the same, that the Dark Mechanicus tried the same millennia ago and fell to the worship of the Dark Gods, to them just proves how ill-suited the tech priests of Mars are for this. Instead, it should be them, the Phainonites, who lead humanity into this shining future where technology in the warp reigns supreme and superstition like the God Emperor is consigned to history. Obviously, this is heresy of the highest order to most Inquisitors, even radical ones, and the Phainonites' creed is crushed wherever it emerges, not only by the Inquisition, but also by the Adeptus Mechanicus, who know exactly where it might lead. One of the more infamous of the radical factions are the Horusians. Existing somewhere between the warp utilization of the Xanthites and the incarnationism of the Puritan Thorians, the Horusians are a resurrectionist faction that look back to the Horus heresy, seeing Horus as an example of a mighty being, a divine avatar that was infused with the great power of the warp. His betrayal of the Emperor was merely an unfortunate twist, an opportunity wasted, but the proof of his existence means that maybe another warp conduit could be created, another divine avatar imbued with the power of the warp, but this time to serve the Imperium. The Horusians therefore work to create a new Horus, to serve as a second Emperor and unite the galaxy, fueled by the power of the warp, and leading the Imperium to glory rather than falling to the power of chaos. Horusians might actually be one of the oldest factions in the Imperium, tracing their origins to one of the Inquisition's founders, Moriana, but their philosophy has reared its head repeatedly over the millennia, most notably in the 35th millennium. The Great Purge conducted of Horusians by the former resurrectionist Inquisitor Stalia von Dressel led to resurrectionism of any form being considered outlaw for a millennia until the rise of the Thorians in M36. But even now, Horusians are almost universally reviled and often operate in great secrecy, with many Inquisitors only rumored to hold Horusian beliefs. Puritan Inquisitors, particularly Thorians, despise them, and even their fellow radicals would consider the Horusians to have crossed many, many lines, which is unfortunate as their studies make them some of the most effective demon hunters in the Ordos. Nevertheless, the hunt for Horusians and the uncovering of Horusian plots has caused more than a few wars within the Inquisition over the millennia. The Plutonians are another radical group operating mostly within the Ordo Malleus, who believe that limited and controlled demonic possession could be used as a force for good in the Imperium. They're mostly known for their involvement in the Exorcists chapter of Space Marines, first encountering the chapter when their early actions showed a marked resistance to possession, and then openly contacting them when their chapter master, Trismegistus, was possessed by a demon but managed to cast it out. With input from Trismegistus, who had first-hand knowledge of resisting possession, the Plutonians instituted a program called Demonic Possession Therapy, whereby new recruits to the chapter would be possessed by a demon and forced to cast it out to better armor their souls against the temptations of the war. Despite all this being radical in the extreme, the entire program has now been in existence and running for thousands of years, overseen by Plutonian Inquisitors and the librarians of the chapter, and seems so far to be pretty successful. The faction also control the region around the chapter's homeworld of Banish, which is under inquisitorial restrictions, and maintain a series of transfer ships and a massive demon containment facility known as the Purgatomb, where demons considered too dangerous for possession therapy are safely kept manifested but impotent in real space. Radical factions, of course, don't have to be crazed demon summoners or anarchic terrorists. Seculos Attenduos are considered dangerous for their beliefs that, while the God Emperor is of course divine, the institution of the ecclesiarchy is an inherently corrupt way of guiding that worship. To them, the monolithic dogma of the Imperial Creed is holding mankind back, and the spirit of the God Emperor is manifested in the people of the Imperium, not in the Church. Quite apart from being a radical departure from the teachings of the Imperium, it's also a very dangerous belief to hold. Seculos Attenduos deliberately remain an extremely secret organization, given the power of the Adeptus Ministorum, and they operate partly by infiltrating its ranks and seeking to spread reform, and then also partly by attempting to limit the Church's access to newly discovered human worlds in the hope that these newfound humans might be brought into loyal imperial service without the fire and dogma of the Ministorum. All of this makes them quite a fringe faction. Life as a member of Seculos Attenduos is extremely dangerous, and so they are one of the least known of the radical factions. Many smaller radical factions are united by a single obsession. In the case of the Ocularians, this is divination and prophecy. Almost a secret society within the Inquisition, those who know of them at all know of them as suspicious and eccentric obsessives, speaking constantly of omens and potential threats to the Imperium. Their research is supported by throngs of acolytes and sanctioned psychers, and their methods verging very close to heresy. Ocularians are
Not the psychers, but the psychics of Warhammer. Like, oh, I sense something bad here. It's near a body of water. It's near a gaseous giant. You realize how many gas giants there are out there? Of course, you're going to be near a gas giant.
strange group. The only records we have of them are from the Calixian conclaves, where their behavior is mostly tolerated as a fringe radical sect who can sometimes be useful, but they can often be the subject of Puritan purges, particularly by overzealous witch hunters who are enraged by their heavy use of the psychic arts. And then, of course, there are a number of other fringe radical groups that are just local to various segmenti or various sectors that develop out of the particular threats present in that sector. The Libricar are an interesting group, confined to the area around the Calixis sector so far, and they're a hardline radical offshoot of Amalathianism. If you remember in the other video, the Amalathians believe that the systems and authorities of the Imperium, despite the occasional flaw, are fundamentally correct and emperor-guided, and the job of the Inquisition is to maintain this and not disrupt anything too much. However, in the 400s, M41, Inquisitor Tarshal was appointed to investigate corruption within the noble houses of the Crassus subsector, whose internecine political backstabbing and house warfare had seen a decade-long breakdown of trade, only ended by the intervention of Battlefleet Obscurus. Appointed to identify who were the perpetrators, Tarshek's courts eventually ended up consigning over 300,000 Imperial servants to death over just a decade, and then, finding corruption seemingly wherever she looked, her purge not only spread into the Adeptus, but into the Inquisition itself. Her reign of terror was ended by a mysterious accident on her cruiser as she pursued a rival Inquisitor, but her beliefs continued to be adopted by a small number of like-minded Inquisitors over the years. The Libricar, who formed from this, believes that the Inquisitions of the Imperium are fundamentally correct. They just consider any mistake or leeway to be so damning that the Inquisition should come down with the full weight of their authority on anyone who might even slightly be involved. In order to maintain the institutions, any flaw in their correct governance should be subject to unceasing judgment and brutal punishment administered by the Inquisition. In fact, in their eyes, it should be the Inquisition in overall control of all of those institutions, picking who gets to rule the Imperium and watching over them with an eagle eye. They frequently undertake massive purges and pogroms, and the targets of these are often the very highest levels of imperial government, something other Amalathians will rarely consider for fear of limiting the effectiveness of the government itself. Inquisitors drawn to the movement are often Amalathians jaded from years of service and seeking a more proactive philosophy, but the Libricar movement is considered such an egotistical notion in the rest of the Inquisition, treated so unseriously, that the Inquisitors who subscribe to it often find themselves quickly radicalized and pushed to even further extremes. Those same sectors also hold such fringe groups as the Polypsychana, a group of Inquisitors who see it as their duty to hasten the psychic evolution of mankind. They see the Inquisition as the natural guardians of such a change and are drawn to that area of the galaxy because of the higher than usual number of psychers born in the region. Inquisitors of the Polypsychana work to identify potential psychers and then spirit them away to safe houses before either the black ships or the Puritan witch hunters of other imperial factions can find them. They've even been known to attempt breeding programs with captured psychers to study the results, or to utilize rare psi-active drugs to induce psychic power in test subjects. Another similarly located fringe group are Xenos hybrids, a radical...
Xenos fuckers. The furries! The furries!
Pro-alien faction who study the long-dead alien species of that sector, seeking to meld human and Xenos technology, or to incorporate Xenos ideas and philosophies for the advancement of humanity into the Imperium's dogma. While
Xenos
scholarly in nature, they are more than ready to kill anyone who tries to stop them. Some of these factions might even be no larger than a few Inquisitors and their personal acolytes. The Antiquati, for example, who are active in the Jericho Reach, are effectively the followers of one experienced Inquisitor, Thaddeus Hack. They believe that the entire universe is unfolding according to some hidden preconceived pattern, and their efforts to unfold this pattern have involved an awful lot of travel into the warp and search for the webway, which has made them enemies of the Harlequins of the Eldar. There are certainly a lot more radical factions, but those are all the ones we have lore for. And together with the Puritan factions, this covers everything from broad centrism to hardline monodomination to some philosophies that, even in 40k, might be considered progressive. I mean, those are obviously radicals in 40k parlance. Which of all of these philosophies is actually the correct one, of course, is another story, and possibly one that doesn't actually matter. The fact that the Inquisition houses within it such different beliefs, so many factions, all dedicated to researching and combating some specific foe in some specific way, is often considered a strength. There is no one perfect way to protect the Imperium, and so the Inquisition has an answer for every potential threat, real or imagined. Of course, the constant infighting this causes means it's not a perfect system by any means. Inquisitors of opposing beliefs have come to blows many, many times, often while both are in pursuit of a way to advance Imperial interests. But given the flexible and independent nature of the Inquisitors, it's one of the few arms of the Imperium with the latitude to investigate such a range of threats and present such a range of solutions. If there really is a secret way to save the Imperium, there's probably some Inquisitor out there who's realized it. The issue will just be getting anyone else to believe them without being branded a heretical radical and stopping all the Inquisitors whose beliefs directly contradict their own. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in. A lot to take in today, but hey, now I understand the Inquisitors. All right, we understand the Inquisitors, and some of them are easy to get, and some of them are fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up today because I've got to take care of a couple of things now this afternoon. And that was great. Thank you guys for everybody, new people coming in, joining us. I appreciate everybody's support. A lot of fun today. Tomorrow will be we're not doing Death Note live action. I need a break from watching bad movies tonight. We'll do that for Friday. So I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Get my weird stretchy face there. Can't stop it. Once the stretch starts, you can't stop it. So tomorrow is Thursday, final Thursday of the month, which means Anime Odyssey tomorrow night. Dermy and I will be continuing our Summer of Gundam. We'll be going over Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny Part 1, the first half of that series. Other than that, let's see what is tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Maybe something interesting happen. Either way, rest of the week still ahead of us. Thank you guys for joining me. Remember to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Plenty of stuff. I cover many subjects of the nerd areas. I'll see you guys later tonight for some Space Marine 2 with Alf and probably Cash, unless Dermy decides to stop talking about VTubers and start playing video games with us again. I don't know. Not my problem. Shit. I just knocked the thing out. Anyway. All right, guys. Goodbye.